Chapter 16:14. Yi Xian's mind went blank when he sensed Priest Knife's soul vanish completely. He's dead? That shameless Mu Xiaodao is dead just like that? Ah! Yi Xian suddenly roared furiously. At this moment he'd completely entered a berserk state. He held the sword with both hands and slashed wildly. At the same time the divine god of war armor surged ceaselessly into his body. And the divine god of war intent. Boom, boom, boom. Under Yi Xian's frenzied slashes, the flaming lightning exploded and transformed into countless flaming fragments that scattered everywhere. After he destroyed the flaming lightning, Yi Xian suddenly turned to look at the 11 protectors. At this moment their eyes were filled with fear, because they realized that Yi Xian was even more terrifying than before. Yi Xian walked over to where Mu Xiaodao had vanished, and then he slowly closed his eyes and spoke in a trembling voice. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have sent you flying knives. I'm sorry." As he spoke he suddenly turned around and his eyes were bloodshot. Die. As soon as he spoke he suddenly vanished on the spot. At the moment he charged out, the clones that had been destroyed by the 11 protectors had reappeared. However, it was different this time. The 11 clones had actually entered a berserk state as well. The expressions of the 11 guardians instantly changed greatly when they saw this scene, and they were about to retreat. However, Yi Xian had already charged towards one of the guardians, and then he suddenly slashed down with his sword. At the instant his sword descended, 12 blood swords suddenly slashed out from within the sword case at the same time. At this moment the 12 blood swords were actually several times stronger than before. Obviously the 12 blood swords had been affected by the berserk energy. The protector's expression changed drastically. He suddenly stabbed with his spear and countless rays of light surged out from the tip of his spear. However, the rays of light were instantly obliterated. At the same time over a dozen rays of light from the swords sliced him into pieces. Instant kill. The remaining 10 protectors' expressions instantly became extremely solemn when they witnessed this scene. Yi Xian's current combat strength was seriously abnormal. A ray of light suddenly erupted from beneath Yi Xian's feet, and then he vanished. A ray of blood-red light flashed through the battlefield. Yi Xian once again rushed towards the group of guardians in the distance. At this moment he had completely entered a state of madness. Slaughter. Right now Yi Xian's mind was only filled with slaughter. Slaughter everything in front of him. When they saw Yi Xian charging towards them, the 10 protectors exchanged glances, and a trace of determination flashed through their eyes. In the next moment the 10 of them charged towards Yi Xian. They had no other choice. The laws of the universe would not let them go. Moreover, they might not be able to escape because Yi Xian was faster than them. If he fought with his life on the line there would still be a chance of survival. The 10 of them didn't think about anything else. They just wanted to fight to the death. On the other side, Tu and the woman from the Yang clan were being held back by those black-robed experts. Although the 2 women were powerful, they couldn't care less about Yi Xian at this moment. They couldn't pull themselves away at all. Moreover, they had Yan Xiaoxiao's help. Although Yan Xiaoxiao wasn't very powerful, her support ability was very strong. With her help, Tu and the woman from the Yang clan were holding back most of the black-robed people. Wuku wasn't idle either. She was also holding back some experts of the Cosmos Court. On the other side, Ma Yi walked to the place where Mu Xiaodao had disappeared. She looked at the empty space with a dull look in her eyes. "You idiot." At this moment 7th swordsman suddenly walked to her side and said coldly, "She deserves it." Ma Yi suddenly turned to look at 7th swordsman. "She deserves it." As soon as she finished speaking she suddenly rushed towards 7th swordsman. The 2 women started fighting. On the other side, the most intense battle was between the little girl and the life law. The life law just stood where she was, and there was a constant flash of cold light around her. They could only see the cold light but not the person. At this moment the life law suddenly pointed forward with her fingers. This point directly touched a dagger. Boom. The space in front of the life law shook violently and a figure retreated rapidly. It was Xiaomu. Xiaomu retreated nearly 100 feet before stopping. At this moment the life law in the distance smiled and said, "Xiaomu, it's my turn." As soon as she finished speaking she suddenly disappeared. The moment the life law disappeared Xiaomu also disappeared. In an instant, the starry sky within a radius of tens of thousands of miles was directly torn into countless pieces. and the two women returned to their original position. At this moment, there was a trace of blood at the corner of Xiao Mu's mouth. As for the life law, there was nothing at all. The life law smiled. Xiao Mu, actually, I don't like you stuttering at all. Do you know that? Xiao Mu wiped the blood at the corner of her mouth. No, you need. The life law shook her head and smiled. You don't need me to like you, right? As she said, she slowly walked towards Xiao Mu and smiled. Xiao Mu, I really don't understand why Master adopted you back then. Maybe it was because of pity. After all, you were really too pitiful back then. Master only had pity for you, not love. Do you know that? Xiao Mu stared at the life law. The dagger in her right hand trembled slightly. The next moment she suddenly disappeared on the spot. The life law's lips curled up slightly. He suddenly swung to the right. Boom. A cold light suddenly exploded and a figure retreated hundreds of feet away. It was Xiao Mu. The life law turned around and looked at Xiao Mu. She smiled. You idiot. Don't you know that an assassin like Daoist hates emotional instability the most? Xiao Mu stared at the life law. However, the life law ignored her and turned to look at Zhou Xian in the distance. At this moment, there were only 5 guardians left after Zhou Xian killed. Seeing this, the life law frowned slightly. What a useless thing. As she said, she snapped her fingers. Behind her, the space suddenly split open and a middle-aged man walked out. The life law looked at Zhou Xian in the distance. This bloodline is really annoying. Kill him. The middle-aged man nodded and disappeared on the spot. In the distance, Zhou Xian, who was drawing his sword, suddenly turned around and slashed down. Boom. Zhou Xian retreated hundreds of feet. Before he could stop, a fist imprint suddenly appeared in front of him. Zhou Xian did not dodge. He allowed the fist imprint to land on his war god armor. Boom. Zhou Xian retreated by hundreds of feet again. However, the middle-aged man retreated by thousands of feet. Backlash. There were only 2 people who could ignore Zhou Xian's war god armor. They were Xiao Mu and the life law. The middle-aged man looked at his body. At this moment, his entire body was cracked and his robe was dyed red with fresh blood. Not far away, the life law frowned. Useless. As she said that, she was about to attack. However, at this moment, Xiao Mu suddenly disappeared. The life law's eyes flashed with a trace of viciousness. Scram. As she said that, she suddenly slapped down with her palm. Rumble. The space in front of her was obliterated and a powerful force swept through the starry sky. Everyone in the surroundings was pushed back by this force, and some weaker experts of the Cosmos God Court were even obliterated on the spot. Xiao Mu was also sent flying thousands of feet away by the palm. When she stopped, her pupils suddenly shrank because the life law was already charging towards Zhou Xian, who was in the distance. Xiao Mu roared furiously, "No!" As she spoke, she vanished on the spot. In the distance, Zhou Xian suddenly turned around. At this moment, a woman appeared in front of him. It was the life law. The life law grinned and smashed her fist against Zhou Xian's chest. Bang! In an instant, Zhou Xian was blasted flying. At the instant he flew, the war god armor cracked inch by inch. It wasn't just the war god armor that cracked, Zhou Xian's body collapsed as well. When Zhou Xian stopped, only his soul remained. The life law was about to attack again when she seemed to have sensed something. She frowned, turned around and punched again. Bang! A figure was blasted flying. It was Xiao Mu who had rushed over. The life law looked coldly at Xiao Mu, who was sent flying. Then she turned to look at Zhou Xian, who was left with only his soul. She walked towards Zhou Xian. It's time to end this. As soon as she finished speaking, she was about to attack. However, Xiao Mu appeared in front of her again, and a cold light slashed towards her throat. The life law pressed her fingers together and caught Xiao Mu's dagger. But at the next moment, a cold light suddenly appeared behind her neck. The life law pressed her left hand down lightly. Bang! An invisible force swept out from within her, and Xiao Mu was blasted back once more. The life law glanced coldly at Xiao Mu. Xiao Mu, you should be glad that I'm only a clone. If I was my main body, you wouldn't even have the chance to attack. As she spoke, she walked towards Zhou Xian. At this moment, little Mu rushed in front of her again. In an instant, she was drowned in countless cold lights. Hiss. That expanse of space was instantly torn into pieces. However, the life law was still standing there intact when the cold lights vanished. The life law suddenly charged forward. Xiao Mu's pupils constricted and then she suddenly vanished. At the instant that she vanished, the life law slammed her fist towards the right. Bang! That single punch caused a dent to appear in that expanse of space. At the same time, Xiao Mu was blasted flying again. However, she vanished the moment she was blasted flying. In the distance, the life law suddenly moved to the side, and a dagger slashed down towards her nose as soon as she did. That slash missed. The life law raised her leg and gave a side kick before the dagger could even descend. Bang! That kick shattered the expanse of space and Xiao Mu was blasted flying again. At the instant that she was blasted flying, the life law took a step forward, raised her right hand and pushed her elbow forward. Bang! Xiao Mu was instantly blasted almost 30 kilometers away. The life law did not continue attacking. Instead she turned to look at Zhou Xian. Master, this time it's time to bid farewell. As she spoke, she suddenly appeared in front of Zhou Xian, raised her right hand and elbowed him again. Bang! A loud explosion was heard and a figure was pushed back. It was not Zhou Xian who was pushed back but the life law. A woman stood in front of Zhou Xian. The woman looked at the life law and in the next moment she suddenly appeared in front of her. The life law threw a punch but the punch did not hit the woman. The life law's vision blurred, and in the next moment she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. Bang! The law of life immediately retreated, and the instant she retreated she felt her right hand being grabbed. The law of life's expression instantly changed and she wanted to retaliate with her left hand, but a hand directly grabbed her by the throat, and then she was smashed to the ground. Bang! The life law's head crashed into the expanse of space, and almost at the same time, the woman's knee struck her abdomen. Bang! The life law was blasted thousands of meters away. P.S. I've been really busy lately. It's not an excuse, I'm sorry. The updates aren't that great. When everyone scolds me, as long as they don't call me ugly, I can tolerate it. Chapter 16:15. At this moment, everyone's eyes were on the woman who had just appeared. Nearby, Tu glanced at the woman and his expression relaxed slightly. He naturally knew who this woman was. The woman wore a white robe and had her hair tied up in a ponytail. Zhou Xian also knew this woman. She was the woman who had been following the green-robed man. At this moment the life law in the distance suddenly laughed. Martial Dao Transcendent. Interesting. Martial Dao Transcendent. What was Martial Dao Transcendent? Above Mortal Destroyer was Peri-Celestial, and above Peri-Celestial was Transcendent. Since ancient times there had been very few Martial Dao Transcendent. The woman ignored life law and turned to look at Zhou Xian. At this moment Zhou Xian only had his soul left. If it weren't for the soul-suppressing sword and Xiaota, his soul would have been obliterated just now. In his current state he couldn't withstand a full blow from a powerhouse like life law. The woman withdrew her gaze and looked at the distant life law. The life law smiled. Powerhouses like you are rarely seen among humans. Even among those we nurtured there are almost none like you. The woman slowly walked toward life law. Life law looked at the woman and slowly clenched her right hand. A moment later she suddenly vanished on the spot. In the distance the woman raised her right hand to block. Boom! The space behind the woman cracked, but she was completely unharmed. With her attack blocked, life law suddenly lifted her right leg and swept it at the woman's head. However, the woman was even faster. After blocking life law's attack, she took advantage of the momentum and punched forward. When life law's leg was a few inches away from the woman's head, she was sent flying. The moment she was sent flying, the woman suddenly took a step forward, and then with lightning speed she struck her knee at life law. Life law's expression changed drastically, and she raised both hands to block in front of her. Bang! As everyone watched, life law instantly retreated thousands of meters away. Wherever she passed, space was directly torn apart and annihilated. The law of life hadn't even stopped when the woman appeared in front of her again. The law of life's pupils constricted and she immediately threw a punch. However, she was in the process of retreating and she had thrown this punch in a panic, so the strength and speed of this punch had been reduced by at least half. Sure enough, the moment the law of life punched out, the woman's fist had already struck her throat. Boom! The law of life instantly retreated 100,000 feet, and the space within that 100,000 feet turned into a huge pitch-black abyss. The power of the woman's punch forcibly erased this space. However, the law of life forcibly withstood the power of this punch. After stopping, the law of life licked the blood from the corner of its mouth, then looked at the woman in the distance with a smile and said, It's been many years since I've been injured. Even though it's just a clone. As she spoke, she pointed her right hand towards the woman in the distance, and in the next moment she suddenly clenched her fist. Boom. The area where the woman stood collapsed and was annihilated. However, the woman was completely fine. The law of life narrowed his eyes, and at this moment, the woman suddenly appeared in front of him. The law of life slowly closed his eyes and suddenly moved sideways, directly dodging the fatal punch. At the same time, the law of life's right hand suddenly stabbed towards the woman's throat. However, the law of life's finger stopped half an inch away from the woman's throat, because the woman's attack was even faster and directly punched the law of life's abdomen. Bang! The law of life was instantly pushed back explosively. The woman didn't stop there. She pressed forward, grabbed the law of life's right hand that hadn't been withdrawn, and then pulled it towards herself. At the same time, the woman's knee struck the law of life's abdomen. Bang! The law of life was instantly pushed over 10 kilometers back. The law of life had just stopped when the woman's fist suddenly smashed towards her. The law of life's pupils constricted. At this moment she could only defend herself because she wasn't as fast as the woman when it came to attacking. The law of life's arms protected her head. However, the woman suddenly withdrew her hand at this moment, and then she raised her leg and smashed it down. Bang! The law of life instantly fell. The law of life had just stopped when the woman appeared in front of her once more. The law of life instinctively smashed her fist forward, but the woman's hand had clamped down on her throat at the instant that she punched, and then the woman lifted her up by force. The law of life gazed at the woman and grinned, "You can't kill me." The woman suddenly clenched her right fist. Bang! A powerful force enveloped the law of life, but the law of life's body merely became slightly illusory. The woman's beautiful brows knit together slightly when she witnessed this scene, and then she smashed her fist towards the law of life's face. Bang! The law of life was blasted 3 kilometers back. After the law of life's attack stopped, her body became slightly illusory again. However, she wasn't dead. The law of life gazed at the woman and smiled. "How can a mortal kill a god? Even if it's just a clone?" "A god?" The woman shook her head and chuckled. "We're not familiar with each other. Don't joke around." The corners of the law of life's mouth curled up slightly. "I admit that I'm inferior to you in terms of the martial Dao. However, can you kill me?" Meanwhile, little Twilight suddenly appeared in front of the woman, and she passed the dagger in her hand to the woman. "Kill a god." It was given to her by the former master of the Cosmos God Court, and it could even kill the laws of the universe. The smile on the law of life's face froze when she saw this scene. Little Twilight couldn't kill her with that dagger because she wasn't strong enough. However, if the woman used it, then her clone would definitely be unable to stop it. However, the woman shook her head. "There's no need." As she spoke, she opened her palm and a spear suddenly appeared in her grasp. At the instant she held the spear, the woman's aura instantly changed. The woman gazed at the law of life in the distance, and then she suddenly vanished on the spot. In the distance, the pupils of the law of life constricted abruptly, and then she suddenly smashed her fist forward. A powerful force swept out like a volcanic eruption, and the space around her was obliterated inch by inch. Meanwhile, a spear stabbed over. The spear pierced through the law of life's fist like a hot knife through butter. It stopped for a moment, and then the spear suddenly pierced through the law of life's fist before moving along her arm and into her body. Bang! The law of life was blasted 30 kilometers back. The surroundings suddenly fell silent. The woman gazed at the law of life, and the law of life stared blankly at her own body. At this moment, a mysterious force was destroying her, and even if she was the law of life, she wasn't able to resist that force. She could only watch as her body gradually vanished. The law of life raised her head and gazed at the woman. "You aren't just a god in the martial Dao." The woman didn't speak. She just turned around and gazed at the experts of the Cosmos God Court. At this moment, all of them had stopped. Their eyes were filled with fear as they gazed at the woman who stood before them. She was someone who could even kill a clone of the law of universe. The woman didn't attack them as well. She just walked over to Zhou Xian and gazed at Zhou Xian, who only had his soul left. She spoke softly, "They're too much of a bully." As soon as she finished speaking, she opened her right hand, and the spear that was stabbed into the law of life's body suddenly flew out and returned to her grasp. In the next moment she suddenly turned around and tossed it. The spear stabbed into the center of the Law of Life's forehead. Bang! The Law of Life instantly retreated over 100 kilometers away. At this moment her lower body had become completely illusory and only her head remained. The Law of Life stared at the woman. "You've made me very angry." As soon as she finished speaking, she vanished on the spot. But in the next moment, an extremely terrifying force suddenly swept over from the depths of the starry sky above them. Along with the appearance of this terrifying force, the entire starry sky had become illusory. No, the entire stellar region of the Cosmos God Court had become illusory. The expressions of everyone here changed upon witnessing this scene. Meanwhile, little Mu appeared by the woman's side and she raised her head and gazed towards the depths of the starry sky. Her original body is coming. The law of the universe's body. Little Mu gazed at Yi Xian. "Let's go. Let's go." No one here could stop the descent of the law of the universe's body. Not even the woman who'd just appeared. Yi Xian shook his head. "Go. Where can we go?" Yi Xian gazed at the spot where Mu Xiaodao had vanished, and then he slowly closed his eyes while his heart felt like it was being sliced by a knife. He hadn't expected that Mu Xiaodao would help him block the energy of the law. He really hadn't expected that. If he knew Mu Xiaodao's character was like this, then he wouldn't have sent her flying knives no matter what. "I'm the one who caused her death." Meanwhile, the woman suddenly gazed at Tu. "Take him away." Tu spoke in a low voice. "Even you can't stop it?" The woman shook her head. "Besides the three of them, no one else can stop the law's body. I can only delay her. Take him to his father." Tu frowned slightly. "Where's that fellow now? Why hasn't he come himself?" The woman shook her head. "Don't blame him. He really can't escape now." As she spoke, she looked at Yi Xian. "He's more complicated than we expected." Tu spoke in a low voice. "He was a little abnormal just now. Under normal circumstances, Yi Xian wouldn't be able to awaken the 12 guardian gods, but Yi Xian had awakened them. This made her a little worried. The woman nodded. "I know. That's why I rushed here." As she spoke, she suddenly raised her head and looked into the depths of the starry sky. "She's coming. Take him away, I'll stop her." Tu nodded and was about to take Yi Xian away, but at this moment, a woman suddenly stepped out from the depths of the starry sky. It was the Law of Life. But this time it wasn't a doppelganger but her main body. The Law of Life looked at the woman below and the corners of her mouth curled up. "Leave? Woman, do you think you can leave?" As she spoke, her smile gradually turned cold. "Today none of you can leave. Don't worry, I won't kill you right away. I'll let you taste all the torture in this world." As she spoke, she was about to attack, but at this moment in the distant starry sky, the space there suddenly split open, and the next moment, a woman slowly walked out. When they saw this woman, everyone was stunned. The woman wore a plain dress and held a long sword. The plain dress woman looked at the Law of Life, and she slowly walked toward her with an indifferent expression. "Who gave you the courage to show yourself?" Seeing the plain dress woman, the smile on the Law of Life's face gradually disappeared. "Tinka." At this moment Yi Xian suddenly said softly, "My physical body is gone." The plain dress woman stopped and turned to look at Yi Xian. When she saw that Yi Xian was only left with his soul, she was stunned at first, but the next moment her expression instantly became ferocious. "Who is it?" She suddenly unsheathed the walking sword in her hand. A sword hum suddenly reverberated through the entire Cosmos God Court star field. In the next moment the entire Cosmos God Court star field collapsed inch by inch. It wasn't just the Cosmos God Court star field, even the surrounding star fields of the Cosmos God Court star field collapsed. This sword could destroy the entire universe. Below, countless sword chi rampaged, and the Cosmos God Court experts died on the spot, including the Mortal Extinguisher Realm experts. The expression of the spear-wielding woman, too, and the rest instantly changed drastically because the sword chi attacked indiscriminately. The spear-wielding woman immediately took a step forward and stabbed out with her spear. However, the moment the spear stabbed out, the spear directly shattered. The spear-wielding woman's pupils constricted and she took another step forward. A mysterious power directly enveloped the sword chi in front of her. Wuxian domain. However, the Wuxian domain didn't even last a breath of time before it shattered. In the next moment, countless sword chi slashed towards the spear-wielding woman and the rest. Chapter 16:16. A sense of helplessness rose in the spear-wielding woman's heart when she saw the sword energy slashing toward her. She couldn't stop this woman's sword energy. She realized that the woman was even stronger than before. At this moment, Zhou Xian appeared in front of the spear-wielding woman. The sword energy of the plainly dressed woman stopped half an inch away from Zhou Xian's forehead. Zhou Xian and the others heaved sighs of relief when they saw this. That sword energy really couldn't be stopped. In truth, Zhou Xian was afraid as well. Not to mention the fact that he was only a soul body. Even his main body and war god armor couldn't stop Qing'er's sword energy. This was the sword energy Qing'er had unleashed in a fit of rage. How many people in the world could stop it? Meanwhile, the woman in a plain dress suddenly appeared in front of Zhou Xian. She waved her hand and the sword qi in the surroundings instantly vanished. Along with the disappearance of the sword qi, the experts from countless stellar regions heaved sighs of relief at this moment. The woman's attack just now hadn't just targeted the Divine Palace stellar field, but all the worlds. If the sword energy hadn't vanished, it would only be a matter of time before the entire universe disappeared. Tu glared at the woman and said angrily, "Are you crazy? Don't you differentiate between friend and foe?" She'd almost been killed by this woman just now. The woman glanced coldly at Tuesday. "Instead of cultivating the sword, you went and cultivated the fist. Look at yourself now. Do you know how weak you are?" Tu fell silent. In truth, she regretted it too. If she'd known her brother was still alive, she wouldn't have wasted her time even if you beat her to death. She'd wasted hundreds of thousands of years. If she hadn't been so disheartened and wasted her time, she wouldn't have been any weaker than martial god and Lan. The woman ignored Tu and turned to look at Zhou Xian, her expression cold. "Who is it?" Zhou Xian pointed at the law of life in the distance. "It's her. She's the one who bullied me." The woman looked up at the law of life, whose eyes were filled with solemnity. She naturally knew about this woman. She was the one who defied many laws, including the law of life. So she was fearful of this woman in a plain dress. Moreover, their second sister had given them strict orders that they couldn't appear in the world with their real bodies, and they couldn't fight this woman head-on. And the reason why she appeared in her original form was because she was too angry just now. She, a dignified law of life, was actually beaten up by a mortal. How could this be tolerated? Of course she couldn't tolerate it, but she didn't expect that the woman would appear as soon as she appeared. It was obvious that this woman had been paying attention to them. At that moment, the woman in the plain dress slowly walked toward the law of life. The law of life collected his thoughts and said with a smile, "Second sister said that I can't fight you head-on, but I'm a little unconvinced. Come, let me see just how strong you are." As she spoke, she slowly clenched her right hand and a powerful force condensed in her palm. As this force condensed, the surrounding starry sky started to seethe. The plainly dressed woman looked at the life laws, a trace of disdain on her face. "You think you're worthy?" As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly unsheathed the walking Dao sword in her hand. The walking sword pierced right through the law of life's forehead. Everyone in the surroundings was stunned. Even the law of life herself was stunned. At the instant that the plainly dressed woman drew her sword, the law of life was ready to attack. But at the instant that she was about to attack, the sword had pierced through the center of her forehead. "I didn't even have the chance to attack?" The law of life's mind went blank. Zhou Xian was slightly stunned as well. Is Qing'er that terrifying? She instantly annihilated a law of the universe with a single strike of her sword? That's an instant annihilation. He'd been looking forward to the battle between Qing'er and the universe divine court so that he could learn from it. However, he hadn't expected that the battle would end as soon as Qing'er attacked. Actually, the law of life was the most stunned. As far as she was concerned, even if she couldn't defeat the woman in a plain dress, she wouldn't be much weaker than her. However, she hadn't expected that the gap between her and this swordsman wasn't just a little bit. And Lanjing glanced at the woman, and there was a trace of a complicated expression in her eyes. It's still that invincible Tianming. Meanwhile, the woman had walked over to the law of life and she gazed at her. "See how strong I am? Are you worthy? Are you worthy?" Everyone looked at the woman as if they were looking at a monster. That was the law of life. However, she couldn't even take a single strike from this woman. No, she didn't even have the chance to attack before this woman. Just how terrifying was this woman? The law of life stared at the woman in a plain dress. Within her body, A steady stream of life force was sustaining her life, but it was useless. Even if she was the law of life and controlled the power of life, she couldn't repair the injuries in her body. The damage caused by the woman's sword was not something that any law could repair, including the law of life. The woman looked at the law of life. Call for help. Call for help. The crowd was speechless. The woman said again, call those trashy laws of the universe over. The law of life looked at the woman in a plain dress with an extremely ugly expression. In fact, there was a trace of fear in her heart. In her entire life she had only been afraid of 3 people. The first was her master, the founder of the universe divine court, God Yi. She was both respectful and fearful of God Yi. The second was her second sister. The person in front of her was the 4th person she was afraid of. The woman looked at the law of life. Not going to call for help? The law of life looked up into the depths of the starry sky, but there was nothing there. Seeing that, the law of life suddenly smiled. She knew that she had been abandoned. The swordsman in front of her was a powerhouse at the same level as her master. He was not someone she could fight alone. He would definitely die. The law of life suddenly looked at Zhou Xian below and smiled. Do you want to know why we wanted to kill you back then? Zhou Xian shook his head. I don't want to know. You're the law of life. Can you bring Xiaodao back to life? The reason he asked that was because he saw the undying old man. The undying old man must have been saved by the law of life. Since the other party could save the undying old man, he might be able to save Mu Xiaodao. The law of life looked at Zhou Xian and smiled. I can. Zhou Xian walked in front of the law of life. Save her. The law of life smiled. Beg me. Zhou Xian nodded. I'm begging you. The smile on the law of life's face gradually disappeared. She looked at Zhou Xian for a long time and said softly, do you still remember me? That person you never really cared about. Zhou Xian slowly closed his eyes. At this moment the scene from back then appeared in his mind again. It was still under that tree. Under the tree, the man was reading with great interest and would smile from time to time. Beside him was still Dao Yi. Dao Yi was looking at the man's feet, holding a book and reading it attentively. Little Mu was still cultivating at the side, very seriously cultivating. In fact, there was also a little girl. The little girl wore a colorful dress and had 2 ponytails. She was very cute. The little girl was sitting on a small rock not far away from the tree. She played with the rock alone and would occasionally look at the man under the tree. The man's gaze was either on Dao Yi or little Mu. Seeing this scene, the little girl's expression became gloomy. After a long time, the little girl suddenly gathered her courage and ran to the man under the tree with a few rocks. The little girl looked at the man and said nervously, Master, let's play together, okay? The man smiled. I want to read with Dao Yi. Go and play. The little girl looked at Dao Yi and slightly lowered her head. She wanted to say something, but she did not have the courage to. After a moment of silence, the little girl turned around and left. The rocks in her hand fell to the ground. Hearing the sound of the rocks falling, the man looked up at the little girl. He hesitated and was about to stop the little girl when Dao Yi suddenly said, Master, what do you think this passage means? The man looked at the passage that Dao Yi was pointing at and was a little surprised. Didn't I tell you before? Dao Yi blinked and smiled playfully. I want to hear it again, Master. The man smiled and told it again. When he finished, he looked up into the distance and the little girl was already gone. Dao Yi continued to read very seriously. After a moment of silence, he looked at the small rocks on the ground and was thinking about something. The scene stopped. In reality, in front of the life law, Zhou Xian opened his eyes and opened his palm. In his hand there were 6 or 7 small rocks. Zhou Xian was a little confused. He did not know where these rocks came from. The woman in the plain dress looked at Zhou Xian and was thinking about something. The law of life was slightly taken aback at first when she saw these small stones. In the next moment she suddenly started laughing and then she started crying again. The life law suddenly walked in front of Zhou Xian and hugged Zhou Xian. She pressed her head tightly against Zhou Xian's chest and closed her eyes. She said softly, Master, the most obedient one is not necessarily the good one. You must be careful. Before she could finish her words, her voice suddenly came to an abrupt halt. She was completely breathless. Her body gradually became illusory. Beside Zhou Xian, the plainly dressed woman suddenly turned her head, her expression icy cold. You want to kill someone in front of me? As soon as she finished speaking, the walking sword in her hand suddenly flew out. The sword pierced through the air and traveled millions of miles. Boom. At the end of the distant starry sky, a star field was directly turned into nothingness, forcefully erased by this sword. However, the woman in the plain dress frowned. That sword didn't kill him. The other party had escaped. This was the first time someone had escaped from her sword. The plain-dressed woman opened her palm and the walking Dao sword returned to her hand. There was a drop of blood on the sword. Looking at that drop of blood, the woman in the plain dress had a cold expression. No one knew what she was thinking. Meanwhile, the life laws in Yi Xian's arms had vanished completely, but there was a tiny wooden figure in his hand. This was what the law of life had placed in his hand just now. The little wooden doll looked exactly the same as the law of life. Clearly, the law of life had been preserved until now. Looking at this little wooden figure, Yi Xian fell silent. P.S. Please give me a ticket. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 16-17. At this moment, countless starlight spots gathered behind Yi Xian. Soon these starlight spots condensed into a soul. Mu Xiaodao. Yi Xian turned around. When he saw Mu Xiaodao's soul, he heaved a sigh of relief. The law of life had saved Mu Xiaodao. Yi Xian glanced at the little wooden man in his hand and put it away. At this moment Mu Xiaodao looked around blankly. Not dead. Yi Xian smiled. Surprised. Mu Xiaodao looked at Yi Xian. The law of life saved me? Yi Xian nodded. Mu Xiaodao frowned. You won against the law of life? Yi Xian smiled. Let me introduce you to someone. With that he walked over to the plain-dressed woman and smiled. This is my sister. Mu Xiaodao looked at the plain-dressed woman. When she saw her, her expression turned solemn. Mu Xiaodao nodded. Hello, boss. Boss. The plain-dressed woman sized up Mu Xiaodao and nodded. She did not say anything. Mu Xiaodao looked at Yi Xian. I'm leaving. Yi Xian frowned. Where are we going? Mu Xiaodao said, going back. Yi Xian shook his head. If you go back you'll definitely die. Mu Xiaodao smiled. I won't. Yi Xian wanted to say something but Mu Xiaodao said, I'm just telling you. I don't need your consent. Yi Xian shook his head. I don't mean anything else. It's just that you helped me before. If you go back now Mu Xiaodao smiled. I know what you mean. However, I still have to go back. The plain-dressed woman suddenly said, I'll go back with you. Yi Xian was speechless. Mu Xiaodao hurriedly shook his head. Boss, I know you want to kill the law of the universe. However, even if I go back I won't be able to see them. They have never appeared in front of us. The woman in the plain dress nodded slightly. I know. Mu Xiaodao glanced at Yi Xian, then looked at Lini and Seventh Swordsman in the distance. At this moment the two women were no longer fighting. Mu Xiaodao said, let's go. With that she turned around and left. Lini hurried to follow. Seventh Swordsman hesitated for a moment, then hurried to follow as well. In the distance Ma Yi suddenly said, that woman killed the law of life in one strike. The law of life didn't even have the chance to attack. It's too scary. Mu Xiaodao said softly, behind that bitch there are two people as powerful as that big shot. Lini said in a low voice, two. Mu Xiaodao nodded. Ma Yi sighed helplessly. Just one girl in a simple dress was already so terrifying. If two more came, what was there left to play? Mu Xiaodao glanced at Seventh Swordsman. Seventh Swordsman, you're also a swordsman. Do you feel inferior after seeing that big boss? Low self-esteem? The Seventh Swordsman did feel inferior. That girl's sword was so powerful that it made people despair, and they had no desire to chase after it. The law of the universe, which was like a god in their hearts, couldn't even take a single strike from that woman. It was too scary. At this moment Ma Yi suddenly looked at Mu Xiaodao. Xiaodao, are you sure you want to go back? Mu Xiaodao said softly, do I look like I'm joking? Ma Yi hesitated, then said, if you go back you might not be able to come back. Mu Xiaodao smiled. No matter what, she made me who I am. I can't betray her just like that. Ma Yi glanced at Mu Xiaodao and didn't try to persuade him anymore. She knew Mu Xiaodao's temper. Once she decided on something, no one could change her mind. Soon the three girls disappeared at the end of the distant starry sky. Yi Xian looked at Mu Xiaodao's departing figure and sighed in his heart. He really wanted to make Xiaodao stay, but he knew that he couldn't. This chapter is not finished. Please continue to the next page. He couldn't stay. Yi Xian shook his head and withdrew his thoughts. He looked at the girl in the simple dress. Qing, why are you here? He was also surprised by the sudden appearance of the girl in the simple dress. She said, I sensed their true bodies, so I came. Yi Xian asked, can you sense other universal laws? She shook her head. Yi Xian frowned. Even you can't? She nodded. Yi Xian fell silent for a moment. He looked at Xiaomu. Xiaomu, do you know where the universal laws are? Xiaomu shook her head. I don't know. Even Xiaomu didn't know. Yi Xian felt a headache coming on. He seemed to have thought of something. He looked at the girl in the simple dress. The life law suddenly disappeared. Did someone attack her? She nodded. The other party ran very fast. Yi Xian /S face turned serious when he heard that. Someone who was able to escape from Qing's sword was more than terrifying. She said again. She seemed to want to say something to you, but someone doesn't want you to know. Yi Xian nodded. The life law told him to be careful when it disappeared. What should he be careful of? At this moment, the girl in the simple dress suddenly turned to look at the Yang clan woman. The two women stared at each other. The atmosphere was tense. Seeing this, Yi Xian was a little dumbfounded. Did they have a grudge against each other? Yi Xian quickly stood in front of the two women. Yi Xian looked at the girl in the simple dress. He said softly, Ancestor helped me just now. That's why I can hold on until now. She nodded. I won't kill her. Yi Xian was speechless. The Yang clan woman looked at the girl in the simple dress. She didn't say anything, because she knew that she didn't have the ability to take revenge on the girl in the simple dress. It was stupid for the weak to say anything to the strong. Yi Xian said. Qing, what do you plan to do next? She said, I'm going to look for that person from before. Yi Xian asked. The person who attacked just now? She nodded. Besides that person, there are some laws of the universe. As she spoke, she glanced at the starry sky. They rely on the entire universe. So long as the entire universe is destroyed, then they'll naturally reveal themselves. The expressions of everyone here changed when they heard this. Yi Xian was slightly embarrassed as well. Qing, that's a very dangerous thought. He knew that Qing, definitely possessed the ability to destroy the universe. If she hadn't stopped just now, then this universe would have really been destroyed. Meanwhile, she gazed at Yi Xian. This universe exists as long as you're alive. Yi Xian was speechless. Everyone here was speechless. However, they knew that she wasn't lying. If it wasn't for Yi Xian, then it really wouldn't be difficult for her to destroy the laws of the universe. Hide. I'll destroy the entire universe for you. Where are you going to hide? In this vast universe, apart from Yi Xian, the woman in the plain dress did not care about anyone else. The reason this universe still existed was merely because she loved the house and its crows. Yi Xian seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, Qing, can you help me with something? She nodded. Speak. Yi Xian glanced at Wu Ku and said, a marriage proposal. A marriage proposal. Wu Ku was stunned, and then a trace of warmth flowed through his heart. She knew that Yi Xian wanted to help her. She nodded slightly. All right. Meanwhile, Lanjing suddenly said, Little fellow, it's time for me to go as well. Yi Xian gazed at her. What's your name? Lanjing replied, Anton. Yi Xian bowed respectfully. Thank you, Anton. Lanjing smiled. Your father didn't come this time because he encountered some matters and was truly unable to leave. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. Let me do it. Yi Xian nodded. I don't blame him. Lanjing nodded slightly. Take care. Yi Xian bowed again. Take care, Anton. Lanjing glanced at her before turning around and vanishing into the horizon. Tu looked at Yi Xian. I'm leaving as well. Yi Xian asked, Where to? Tu replied, Cultivate. Don't worry, I'll definitely be there if you're in danger. As she spoke, she glanced at the woman in a plain dress before turning around and vanishing into a ray of light. After Tu vanished, Yi Xian looked at Yan Xiaoxiao who was nearby. Yan Xiaoxiao said, Now it seems like the laws of the universe were created by you. However, they betrayed you. Moreover, they've taken control of the entire cosmos court. Yi Xian shook his head. I don't want to care about these things. Yan Xiaoxiao shook her head. You can't escape. Yi Xian went silent. He really couldn't escape. Yan Xiaoxiao continued. Previously there were tens of mortal extinguisher realm super experts. If I'm not wrong, these people should be secretly nurtured by the laws of the universe. Those people just now might be a part of them. As she said this, she looked at the woman in a plain dress. Of course, if this lady keeps following you, you don't need to worry about these problems. Yi Xian glanced at the woman in a plain dress. It was obvious that Qing wouldn't keep following him. Qing appeared this time because of the appearance of the laws of the universe. Otherwise she wouldn't have come. Many things had to be faced by oneself. Yi Xian looked at Yan Xiaoxiao. Lady, are you interested in investigating with me? Yan Xiaoxiao nodded. Yes. Yi Xian said, is there anyone left in the Cosmos Court? Yan Xiaoxiao nodded. There are people down there, but I don't know if they will recognize you. Yi Xian thought about it. Those who are willing to recognize me can go to the Undying Emperor clan in the 9 dimensions. Those who are not willing, I won't force them. Yan Xiaoxiao nodded. I'll contact them. After saying that, she paused for a moment before continuing. Previously, the Cosmos God Court maintained the peace of the entire universe. Now most of the experts in the Cosmos God Court are dead. There might be chaos in many places. You have to consider this matter. Yi Xian said, wait for me to come back and deal with it. As he said this, he looked at Wu Ku. Little Ku, let's go. Wu Ku nodded. Soon the three disappeared into the distance. Yan Xiaoxiao looked at the depths of space and sighed softly. She really didn't expect things to develop to this point. At this moment, a lady appeared behind Yan Xiaoxiao. It was the educated youth in charge of the intelligence system of the Cosmos Court. Yan Xiaoxiao said softly, what do you think? The educated youth shook her head. I don't know. It's very chaotic now. Yan Xiaoxiao looked at the educated youth. Do you know what happened in the Cosmos Court? At the very beginning. Yan Xiaoxiao shook her head. The history of the founder of the Cosmos Court has been erased. Erased. Yan Xiaoxiao said softly. It seems like things are more complicated than we thought. At the end of the distant space. Yi Xian looked at Wu Ku. Little Ku, your Wu clan is forcing you to marry with that Southly clan? Wu Ku nodded. Yi Xian nodded slightly. He looked at the plain-dressed lady. He hesitated. Qing, I'll say this first, you can kill people but you can't kill indiscriminately. He realized that when Qing was angry she would even kill her own people. This wasn't good. The plain-dressed lady nodded. I'll try my best. Yi Xian's expression froze. He was a little flustered. He was going to propose marriage, not to exterminate the clan. Wu Ku was also a little flustered. Was it really good to bring this big shot to the Wu clan? She was starting to worry about the Wu clan. P.S. I'm too late today. I'm a little flustered now. End of this chapter. Chapter 16-18. Somewhere in the starry sky, a woman stood quietly. Behind her was a giant demonic dragon. It was Emo Xiaoshuang. At this moment, Emo Xiaoshuang was looking at a scroll in her hand. After a long time she withdrew her gaze and said softly, Cosmos Court. At this moment an old man by her side spoke solemnly, the Cosmos Court is finished. Emo Xiaoshuang shook her head. No. The Cosmos Court has become even more terrifying. The old man frowned. What do you mean? Emo Xiaoshuang said softly, because the laws of the universe have appeared. Moreover, based on the experts they called out earlier, the laws of the universe have definitely nurtured a group of extraordinary experts. The current Cosmos Court is even more terrifying than before. Because it's unknown. We don't know anything about them. The old man hesitated for a moment before he said, they have an even stronger enemy now. Emo Xiaoshuang smiled. Yi Xian. The old man nodded. Emo Xiaoshuang said softly, he might really be the reincarnation of the founder of the Cosmos Court. The old man nodded. It's very likely. Emo Xiaoshuang fell silent for a long time before she said softly, we have to join forces with him. The old man hesitated for a moment before he said, young miss, are we really going to fight the laws of the universe to the death? Emo Xiaoshuang was expressionless. How can we not take revenge for the Demon Dao clan? The old man sighed in his heart. In the starry sky Yi Xian was flying on his sword. Beside him were Wu Ku and the woman in a plain dress. All along the way Wu Ku looked curiously at the woman. She was extremely curious about her. She actually killed an existence of the laws of the universe. She even killed him in an instant. That wasn't just an ordinary level of terror. Wuku hesitated for a moment before she said, "Senior, how strong are you?" "How strong?" Yi Xian looked at the woman when he heard this. Actually, he wanted to know exactly how strong Qing was as well. The woman's expression was calm. "I don't know. I don't know." Yi Xian shook his head and smiled because he knew what Qing meant. Wuku didn't know, so she frowned. "You don't know." She glanced at Wuku. "How would I know without an opponent?" "Without an opponent?" Wuku's expression froze. The woman in the plain dress looked at Yi Xian. She sized up Yi Xian and nodded slightly. "You're not as weak as before." As she said that, she seemed to feel that this might be a blow to Yi Xian, so she added, "What I mean is, you are also very strong." Yi Xian was speechless. Wuku suddenly said, "Senior, can you give me some pointers?" She knew that if she could receive guidance from this woman, she would benefit from it for the rest of her life. This was an invincible existence. The plainly dressed woman shook her head. "No." Wuku felt a little awkward. She realized that this senior was not easy to talk to. The woman in the plain dress said again, "We're not on the same path, so I can't give you any pointers." Wuku was a little puzzled. Not the same people? Aren't they all cultivators? The woman in the plain dress looked at Wuku. "You are a cultivator, but I am not." Wuku still did not understand. "Then senior, you are?" The woman said, "Why do you have so many questions?" Wuku was speechless. Seeing that Wuku was a little embarrassed, Yi Xian hurriedly said, "Qing, what level are you at?" The woman in the plain dress said, "I don't know. This chapter is not finished. Please continue to the next page." Yi Xian was a little curious and was about to ask, but at this time the woman in the plain dress took the initiative to say, "There is no level that can measure me." Wuku's expression suddenly became a little strange. Yi Xian asked again, "You've surpassed your level?" The woman in the plain dress shook her head. "Not surpassed. Saying too much is too complicated. Let me put it simply. I am invincible. That's it." Yi Xian's expression also froze, and Wuku was also dumbfounded. "Invincible?" Wuku hesitated for a moment, then said, "Senior, I heard my ancestor say that no one in this world can be invincible. In this vast universe there is no strongest, only stronger." The woman in the plain dress glanced at Wuku. "I envy your ancestor." Wuku was a little puzzled. "Why?" The woman in the plain dress said indifferently, "The reason why he said that was because he was still very weak and he knew that there was someone stronger than him." But as she said that, she looked at Wuku. "No one is stronger than me, I am invincible." Wuku was speechless. Yi Xian said, "Qing, you have experienced the vast universe, have you never met a worthy opponent?" The woman in the plain dress said, "Your father and that swordsman count." Yi Xian blinked. "You or them, who is stronger?" The woman in the plain dress looked at Yi Xian. "Do you want to hear the truth?" Yi Xian nodded vigorously. The woman in the plain dress said, "If I don't want to live, they all have to die." Hearing this, Yi Xian fell silent. Qing did not say that she was stronger than Big Brother and Father, but from her words, it could be heard that she could die together with Father and Big Brother. At this time, the woman in the plain dress said, "That swordsman has no worries in his heart, no thoughts, and only wants to be defeated. His sword has reached the pinnacle of emotionlessness. Your father's sword Dao seems to be emotionless, but in fact the core is love, which is another pinnacle." Yi Xian looked at the woman in the plain dress. "What about you, Qing?" The woman in the plain dress glanced at Yi Xian but did not say anything. At this time Xiaota suddenly said, "Young master, I know." Yi Xian said with a smile, "What do you know?" Xiaota said, "Master said he said that this sister's sword was born from obsession, and because of this obsession she once guarded a universe for countless years. This obsession is love, and because of this obsession she once destroyed a universe. This obsession is emotionlessness. She reached the pinnacle of emotionlessness and also reached the pinnacle of love. And whether it is love or emotionlessness, it is all because of obsession. If she let go of this obsession, she will surpass her present and reach a very, very, very terrifying level." Yi Xian frowned. "Let go of obsession?" Xiaota said, "Yes." Yi Xian looked at the woman in the plain dress. "Qing, if you let go of obsession, will you become stronger?" The woman did not answer. Yi Xian was a little puzzled. "Qing, why don't you let go of obsession?" The woman in the plain dress still did not answer. Yi Xian was a little puzzled and was about to ask. Xiao Ta suddenly said, "Young master, you silly, you are this sister's obsession. If you want her to let go of obsession, it is the same as asking her to kill you. If he kills you, she will really let go of obsession." Phew. Yi Xian's expression froze and he turned to look at the woman in the plain dress. "Qing, I am your obsession?" The woman in the plain dress suddenly pulled on Yi Xian's hand and said softly, "It doesn't matter if it is obsession or not, as long as I don't want to die, no one can kill me. As for the next step, without you, everything is meaningless. You are not my obsession, you are my everything for the rest of my life." Everything for the rest of his life. Yi Xian held the woman's hand tightly and did not speak for a long time. Wuke glanced at him. "This chapter is not finished, please continue to the next page." The woman in the plain dress and Yi Xian did not speak. After a while the three of them entered a star field. Wuji star field. There was a powerful family here and that was the Wu clan. As soon as the three of them stepped into Wuji star field, a middle-aged man appeared in front of them. When he saw Wu Ku, the middle-aged man was slightly surprised and then said happily, "Young Miss is back." Wu Ku nodded, "Take me to see my father." The middle-aged man hurriedly said, "Okay." The three of them followed the middle-aged man into the distance and soon the three of them arrived at a large hall. There were more than a dozen people in the hall, and the leader was a middle-aged man who looked somewhat similar to Wu Ku. Obviously this was Wu Ku's father. Wu Ku did not speak but looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian walked out and he cupped his fists at the middle-aged man. "Uncle, I am Yi Xian and I have come to the Wu clan to propose marriage." Propose marriage. As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes fell on Yi Xian. The middle-aged man looked at Yi Xian. "Propose marriage?" Yi Xian nodded, "Yes." The middle-aged man was expressionless. "Don't you know that Ku heir is already engaged to the Nanli clan?" Yi Xian looked at Wu Ku and Wu Ku shook his head. "I have never agreed to it." The middle-aged man gazed coldly at Wu Ku. "Do you need to agree to this?" Wu Ku frowned when she heard this and she was about to speak when Yi Xian suddenly said, "This is little Ku's marriage. Don't you need her to agree to it?" The middle-aged man gazed at Yi Xian. "Who the hell are you?" Yi Xian was about to speak when the woman in a plain dress suddenly drew the walk sword. The others didn't even have the time to react before the walk sword stabbed into the middle-aged man's mouth and nailed him to the wall. The expressions of everyone here changed drastically. Yi Xian hadn't expected that Qing would suddenly attack. The woman gazed at Yi Xian. "I didn't kill him." Yi Xian was speechless. The plainly dressed woman blinked her eyes. "Continue." Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then he glanced at the surroundings and said, "The martial clan? Get someone else to come out here and talk. All of us are cultured people, so don't attack us verbally. I'm doing this for your own good." The elders within the hall gazed at the woman in a plain dress with fear in their eyes. Our patriarch was nailed to the wall just like that? He didn't even have the ability to fight back. This woman isn't simple at all. At this moment, the middle-aged man who was being stared at was even more astounded to the extreme. He actually hadn't been able to react just now. Suddenly, a voice resounded from within the hall. "Wu Ku, did you bring an outsider here to bully my martial clan?" Yi Xian turned around and saw an old man walking in from outside the hall. Wu Ku said, "The Grand Elder Wu Tu." Yi Xian glanced at the Grand Elder and was about to speak when the Grand Elder gazed coldly at the woman in a plain dress. "Guards." As soon as he finished speaking, two black-robed figures appeared here. Both of them were at the mortal-breaking realm. The Grand Elder stared at the woman in a plain dress. "Kill this woman first." Yi Xian was speechless. Wu Ku's expression instantly changed drastically, and she was just about to speak when the woman in a plain dress suddenly gazed at her. "Miss, if you don't mind, then I'll kill your entire family. In that way your troubles will be resolved." Wu Ku was speechless. Yi Xian was speechless. P.S. How flustered. End of this chapter. Chapter 16-19. Yi Xian broke out in cold sweat when he heard Qing'er's way of thinking was truly too dangerous. Wu Ku was speechless as well. This big shot had actually asked her if she would mind annihilating her clan. Moreover, this big shot didn't seem like he was joking. Wu Ku had no choice but to look at Yi Xian and seek help from Yi Xian. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and said, I think that we can try peaceful means before resorting to force." The woman nodded. "All right, I'll do as you say." She sat down at the side and remained silent. Yi Xian instantly heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Qing had no intention of attacking again. Meanwhile, the martial ancestor suddenly roared with laughter. Yi Xian gazed at the Grand Elder. What's wrong with this geezer now? The Grand Elder gazed at her and ridiculed. Annihilate my martial race? How arrogant of you. Come on. Destroy it for the old man to see. Yi Xian was flabbergasted when he heard this. Is this geezer stupid? Wuku was extremely shocked as well. She was about to speak when Qing suddenly said, Summon the ancestor. Summon the ancestor. Yi Xian was speechless. The Grand Elder ridiculed. Summon the ancestor? Do you think you're worthy of summoning the ancestor of my martial race? You. Meanwhile, the walk sword that nailed the martial race's patriarch suddenly flew out, and then it pierced the center of the Grand Elder's forehead and nailed him to a nearby pillar. All the experts of the martial race were stunned, including the Grand Elder. At this moment his mind had gone blank. I don't even have the ability to fight back? At this moment, the minds of all the experts of the martial race instantly cleared up. She's a big shot. The martial race's patriarch stared fixedly at her. Who exactly are you? She didn't answer him and she gazed at Wu Ku instead. Who's the strongest fighter in your martial race? Wu Ku hesitated for a moment and said, Ancestor. She nodded. Ask him to come here. Wu Ku. Meanwhile, the martial clan's patriarch spoke in a low voice. There's no enmity between my martial clan and you, so why are you humiliating my martial clan? The plainly dressed woman shook her head. I'm not interested in you. As she spoke, she looked at Yi Xian. Brother, you talk to them. If things don't go well, the entire clan will be exterminated. Clan extermination. Yi Xian was speechless. The faces of the martial clan experts in the hall darkened. This was too much. Yi Xian looked at the martial clan patriarch. This time I'm here to propose marriage. Little Ku will be my woman from now on. Don't let her get married to some non-Li clan. He didn't want to be long-winded. There was no way to communicate normally with the Wu clan. The martial clan's patriarch stared at Yi Xian. What if my martial clan disagrees? Yi Xian was stunned and then he said, You don't agree? The martial clan's patriarch looked at Yi Xian. If I don't agree, what are you going to do? Yi Xian sighed softly. Martial clan's patriarch, I'm going to say one last thing. This is really the last thing. Look at me. Am I not outstanding? The martial clan's patriarch said coldly. You are outstanding, but can you compare to the non-Li clan? The non-Li clan is the #1 clan in the world. If my martial clan can form a marriage alliance with them, my martial clan's status will be greatly improved. How can you help my martial clan by marrying you? Yi Xian turned to look at Wu Ku. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Wu Ku nodded. Then let's go. Yi Xian nodded. Let's go. He was speechless towards this martial clan. If it wasn't for Wu Ku, he would have killed this martial clan. Ting was so terrifying. Were they blind? Couldn't they see? He really didn't want to talk nonsense with these people. However, it couldn't be helped. After all, this was Wu Ku's family. He couldn't really destroy the martial clan. The three of them were about to leave. However, the martial clan's patriarch said, Xiao Ku, if you step out of this door today, you will no longer be a member of the martial clan. Expelled from the martial clan. Wu Ku stopped. After a while she smiled. All right. She didn't have any hope for this family anymore. Her visit this time was actually to give this family a chance. However, she was disappointed. Soon the three of them left the martial clan. Inside the hall, the martial clan's patriarch's face was extremely ugly. After a while he suddenly said, Inform the non-Li clan. Not far away, the great elder said in a deep voice, That woman's strength. He was quite afraid of that woman in a plain dress. The martial clan's patriarch was expressionless. She's just one person. After leaving the martial clan, Yi Xian looked at Wu Ku. Xiao Ku, why don't you go to the 9th dimension? Wu Ku smiled. That's what I plan to do. Hearing this, Yi Xian instantly smiled. Wu Ku's strength was extremely terrifying. If he went to the 9th dimension, it would be of great help to the 9th dimension. In fact, he also didn't understand what the martial clan was thinking. Wu Ku was at the breaking mortality realm and had such terrifying combat strength. It could be said that her future was boundless. Why did they want her to get married? Wouldn't it be better for her to stay in her own clan? As if he knew what Yi Xian was thinking, Wu Ku suddenly said, The non-Li clan is not simple. Yi Xian looked at Wu Ku. Not simple. Wuku nodded. The Nanli clan once received help from the laws of the universe. Moreover, there have been many generations of guardians of the laws of the universe in the Nanli clan. Let's put it this way. The Nanli clan is equivalent to the Celestial Court. Of course, they aren't as strong as the Celestial Court, but they are protected by the laws of the universe. Moreover, the Nanli clan's bloodline is a bit special. The Martial clan wants me to marry them because they want to take advantage of their bloodline. Yi Xian was confused. Is it as special as my bloodline? Wuka shook his head. Far from it. Yi Xian was even more confused. Then why don't they want you to marry me? Wuku rolled his eyes at Yi Xian. They don't know how powerful your bloodline is. Saying this, he glanced at Qing. They don't know how terrifying this senior is. Yi Xian nodded. In fact, it was mainly because they couldn't kill people. If they let Qing kill a few more people, the people of the Martial clan would probably be afraid. At this moment, Qing suddenly turned to look. The next moment, the space there split open and an old man suddenly walked out. Wuka said in a low voice, Nanli clan. Nanli clan. The old man wore a large robe and hid his hands in his sleeves. After coming out, his gaze fell on Wuku. Little girl, I heard that you would rather be expelled from the Martial clan than marry into the Nanli clan? Wuku smiled. Elder Nanli Mu, why do you insist? The old man named Nanli Mu shook his head. I'm not forcing you. It's just that the old man feels that you're looking down on the Nanli clan. Right now, it's not a matter of marriage, it's a matter of face. A matter of face. Wuku smiled. Then what does the Nanli clan want to do? Nanli Mu looked at Wuku. I think it's best if you disappear from this world forever. Hearing this, Yi Xian frowned. At this moment, Qing looked at Yi Xian. Can I kill this one? Just as Yi Xian was about to speak, Nanli Mu looked at Qing and smiled. Kill the old man? You're so arrogant. Come, the old man is standing right here, you can try and kill him. Qing nodded. All right. As soon as she finished speaking, a sword pierced Nanli Mu's forehead. No one was able to react in time. Even Yi Xian and Wuku did not see how Qing attacked. It was an instant kill. In the air, Nanli Mu was completely stunned. He died just like that. Qing looked at Yi Xian innocently. He asked me to kill him. Yi Xian was speechless. In the air, Nanli Mu suddenly opened his palm, and in the next moment, a voice transmission stone flew out and disappeared into the sky. Nanli Mu stared at Qing with a ferocious expression. No matter who you are, everyone related to you will die without a burial place. As he spoke, his body gradually became illusory. Next to him, Yi Xian was speechless. This guy was dead, so be it. He was still calling for help. Wuku also shook his head. The Nanli clan was used to being arrogant and domineering. They were too arrogant and domineering. Soon the old man disappeared completely. After the old man disappeared, Yi Xian was speechless. He felt that age had nothing to do with intelligence. Living for a long time did not mean that one was intelligent, especially those who were high and mighty. Some people became more and more stupid the longer they lived. Meanwhile, the Wu clan patriarch appeared again and he glanced coldly at Wuku. It's not too late for you to change your mind now. Otherwise, you'll die without a burial place. Wuku shook his head and smiled. Father, I'm very disappointed in you. Even now, you still haven't come to your senses. The Wu clan patriarch said angrily, Idiot. Do you know how strong the Nanli clan is? Not only do they have 3 mortal terminators, but they also have over a dozen mortal breaking realm cultivators. Besides that, they have the supreme laws of the universe behind them. As he spoke, he glanced at Qing. I admit that she's very strong, but no matter how strong she is, can she be stronger than the laws of the universe? Yi Xian, Qing glanced at the Wu clan patriarch and didn't speak. Wu Ke shook his head and sighed in his heart. The laws of the universe. The laws of the universe that my clan revered like gods can't even withstand a single strike from this woman. Meanwhile, the Wu clan patriarch spoke again. The experts of the Nanli clan are on their way here. It's not too late for you to change your mind now. Wu Ke glanced at the Wu clan patriarch and didn't speak again. Because she felt that it was useless no matter what she said. That the woman in a plain dress could instantly defeat the laws of the universe? She knew that her father wouldn't believe it. In fact, even she wouldn't believe it. Before she saw the woman in a plain dress, she wouldn't believe that such a terrifying expert existed in the world. Suddenly, the sky in the distance cracked open. In the next moment, an extremely powerful aura suddenly emerged from that space, and it didn't take long for a middle-aged man to walk out. The moment the middle-aged man walked out, the space around him rippled. The middle-aged man's gaze descended onto the woman in a plain dress. "You killed the members of my Nonli clan?" The woman in a plain dress nodded. The middle-aged man walked slowly towards the woman in a plain dress and smiled. "You think you're very strong?" The woman in a plain dress nodded again. The middle-aged man stopped and smiled. "Come, I'll give you 3 strikes. P.S. I haven't thought of an excuse for being late today. I don't know what to do now." Chapter 16:20. I'll let you strike 3 times. As soon as these words were spoken, the surroundings suddenly fell silent. Let the woman strike 3 times? Zhou Xian was speechless, and then he shook his head and fell silent. Wuxia shook his head and sighed as well. The martial clan's patriarch gazed coldly at the woman. "Aren't you very good at fighting? Draw your sword now." The woman shook her head. "How boring." As she spoke, she gazed at Wuxia. "Where's the Nonli clan? Just point me in the right direction." Wuxia hesitated for a moment, and then he pointed to the right. "Go to the Nonli region." The woman nodded, and then the walk sword suddenly left its sheath. Boom. A sword howl resounded as a ray of light tore through the sky, and it instantly vanished into the starry sky. Wuxia, who stood by Zhou Xian's side, pulled on Zhou Xian's sleeve and asked, "What's she doing?" Zhou Xian was about to speak when Xiaota spoke abruptly. "Big sister is raiding a home." "Raiding a home?" Zhou Xian was quite puzzled. "What's raiding a home?" Xiaota fell silent for a moment before he said, "Young master, I'm just a pagoda. Don't ask me everything. What do you expect a pagoda to know?" Zhou Xian was dumbfounded by what he heard. Wuxia shook his head and smiled. "This Xiaota is really quite amusing." The middle-aged man gazed at the woman and smiled. "Can that strike of yours annihilate my Nonli clan?" The woman didn't look at the middle-aged man, and she gazed at Zhou Xian instead. "I'm leaving." Zhou Xian hesitated for a moment and said, "To search for the laws of the universe?" The woman nodded. "That's only one of them. I have to find that person who killed before me." Zhou Xian thought for a moment and said, "All right." The woman walked over to Zhou Xian, and then she patted Zhou Xian lightly on the shoulder and spoke gently. "I'll appear when the laws of the universe appear once more. Take care of yourself." Zhou Xian smiled and said, "Qing, are you too?" The woman nodded and was about to leave. Meanwhile, the middle-aged man suddenly smiled and said, "You're leaving? Did you ask me?" The plainly dressed woman glanced at the middle-aged man. "Why don't you turn around and look?" The middle-aged man was about to speak when an old man suddenly appeared in front of him. The middle-aged man said in a trembling voice, "Clan leader. The Nonli clan is gone. The Nonli tribe was gone." The middle-aged man frowned. "What's gone?" The elder said with a trembling voice, "The Nonli tribe is gone." The middle-aged man glared at the old man. "What nonsense are you spouting?" The old man's face was pale. Just now, a sword suddenly entered the south parting boundary, and then the entire south parting boundary was gone. The middle-aged man was stunned, and then he said furiously, "How could that be possible?" The old man said in horror, "It's true. That sword entered the south parting realm, and then the entire south parting realm." The middle-aged man suddenly turned his head to look at the plain-dressed woman below. "It's you." The lady in the plain dress walked towards the middle-aged man slowly. "It's me." The middle-aged man said viciously, "You killed so many living beings with a single sword strike. Aren't you afraid of karma?" The plain-dressed woman looked at the middle-aged man. "Is this something you should be worrying about now?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man's face instantly turned pale. Yes. Was this something he should be worried about now? Shouldn't he be worrying about his own life and death? On the other side, the martial clan's patriarch was stunned as well. The Nonli tribe was gone just like that. At this moment, the Wu clan patriarch's hands were trembling. He knew that he had severely underestimated the woman in front of him. At this moment, the woman in the plain dress had already walked in front of the middle-aged man. She looked at the middle-aged man, and the middle-aged man stared fixedly at the woman in the plain dress. He opened his palm and a golden talisman appeared in his hand. "Do you know what this is?" The plainly dressed woman looked at the middle-aged man. "Call for help." The middle-aged man's expression turned fierce. "This is a law talisman. Using it can summon the laws of the universe. Woman, no matter how strong you are, will you be stronger than the laws of the universe? As soon as he finished speaking, he opened his palm, and then the law talisman transformed into a ray of golden light that vanished into the starry sky. The woman in the plain dress raised her head and looked towards the depths of the starry sky. The starry sky there suddenly started trembling, and then numerous formidable auras swept down. The entire starry sky seethed with excitement. A figure gradually appeared in the depths of the starry sky. At the sight of this, Zhou Xian blinked his eyes. What kind of law was this? The laws of the universe. The middle-aged man was instantly overwhelmed with excitement when he saw the laws of the universe, and he immediately bowed deeply. Welcome, laws of the universe. As he spoke, he slowly knelt down. The old man by his side was overwhelmed with excitement as well, and he immediately knelt down and kowtowed incessantly. On the other side, the martial clan's patriarch hesitated for a moment before he slowly knelt down as well. He seemed to have noticed something, and he turned around to look at Wu Ku and said furiously, "Quickly kneel down." Wu Ku glanced at the martial clan's patriarch with a cold and indifferent expression, and he didn't speak. The martial clan's patriarch glanced coldly at Wu Ku when he saw Wu Ku remain indifferent. "You'll regret this." As he spoke, he raised his head and gazed at the figure in the depths of the starry sky. At this moment, the plainly dressed lady was also looking at the illusory figure. In the starry sky, the illusory figure's gaze fell onto the plainly dressed lady. After a moment of silence, she immediately turned illusory and disappeared in the blink of an eye. At the same time, the formidable aura instantly vanished as well, and the starry sky returned to calm. She's someone that I can't afford to offend. He's gone. The patriarch of the Southly clan and the others were stunned. He's gone just like that? The woman in a plain dress withdrew her gaze and shook her head. It actually wasn't me. What a pity. As she spoke, she gazed at the Southernly patriarch. You're useless now. As soon as she finished speaking, a sword pierced through his head. His blood sprayed. He didn't even have the ability to fight back. The martial clan's patriarch was dumbstruck when he witnessed this scene. At this moment, his mind cleared up. Why did the laws of the universe leave? There was only one explanation. It was that he couldn't defeat this woman. Who exactly is she? Even the laws of the universe didn't fight and fled. I'm finished. That was the only thought in the martial clan's patriarch's mind right now. The Southernly patriarch stared fixedly at the woman in a plain dress. Who exactly are you? The woman didn't answer him, and she turned around to gaze at Zhou Xian instead. I'm leaving. Zhou Xian nodded. All right. The woman nodded slightly. She was just about to leave when she seemed to have thought of something, and she turned around to gaze at Wu Ku. Where's the martial clan? Point me in the direction. Where's the martial clan? Wu Ku's face froze. The martial clan's patriarch's expression instantly changed drastically, and he immediately bowed deeply to the woman. Senior, my martial clan has offended you in the past. Please be magnanimous and spare my martial clan. The woman gazed at Zhou Xian. Kill? Kill. The martial clan's patriarch immediately turned around and bowed respectfully to Zhou Xian. Nephew, I represent the martial clan in agreeing to the marriage between you and little Ku. From now on, you're a member of my martial clan and we're a family. Zhou Xian was speechless. This fellow is really shameless. Wu Ku shook her head slightly and then she gazed at Zhou Xian. Let's go. Zhou Xian nodded and then he gazed at the woman in a plain dress. Qing, you can go. Qing nodded. You have to work hard. I have a feeling that something bad is about to happen. Zhou Xian frowned slightly. Something bad? Qing nodded slightly. I have a premonition. My premonitions are usually not wrong, so you have to be careful. Zhou Xian spoke in a low voice. Can you sense what's about to happen? Qing shook her head. No. I'm not good at anything besides killing, and I'm not interested in understanding it. Zhou Xian was speechless. Qing continued. Remember, I can kill but I can't save people. If you're erased, I can't save you. Zhou Xian nodded. Understood. I'll work hard. Qing nodded, and just as she was about to leave, Zhou Xian suddenly said, You know that in my body. Previously, there were times when he felt that he wasn't himself, and that feeling made him panic. Because he was now sure that in his body was the founder of the Cosmos God Court, and the other party's strength was definitely stronger than his. What he was most worried about was that he would be controlled by the other party. Qing suddenly said, Don't worry, although he'll affect you, you won't become him. Yi Xian was puzzled. Why? Qing'e looked at Yi Xian. Because he doesn't dare to wake up. If he does, I'll kill him. Yi Xian was speechless. The green girl continued, you can take all the benefits he left behind, including all the good karma he had, you can inherit them. She paused, then continued, you can understand it this way, you're one, but he can't control you, and you can't become him, but you can control him and make him become you. Understand? Hearing this, Yi Xian blinked. I understand a little. Didn't this mean that he could devour the God Master of the Cosmos God Court? As if thinking of something, Yi Xian asked again, is he willing? Qing'e's lips curled into a mocking smile. What can he do even if he's unwilling? With that, she turned into a ray of sword light and disappeared into the horizon. Yi Xian raised his head to look at the starry sky, and no one knew what he was thinking. At this moment, the Wu clan leader heaved a sigh of relief. With that woman here, he felt like he was suffocating. Too terrifying. As if thinking of something, he turned to look at Yi Xian, and at this moment he felt that Yi Xian was more pleasing to the eye. Not only was he young and promising, but he also had such a terrifying backer. If Wu Ku married him, wouldn't that mean that the Wu clan would have a super expert protecting them? Thinking of this, the Wu clan leader smiled. Nephew, let's return to the Wu clan to hold the wedding. Hold the wedding? Yi Xian was stunned, then he asked, hold the wedding? The Wu clan leader smiled. Of course. Didn't you and my daughter promise to marry each other? Since you've already promised to marry each other, of course we have to hold the wedding. There's no time like the present, I think today is very suitable, let's hold the wedding today. Yi Xian turned to look at Wu Ku, but Wu Ku was expressionless and didn't speak. Yi Xian looked at the Wu clan leader. Your skin is thicker than mine. FPZW. Chapter 1621. Of course, Yi Xian and Wu Ku did not return to the martial clan. To Yi Xian, the martial clan was a weirdo. The martial clan leader was worlds apart from the Immortal Emperor tribe's leader, Dongli Jing. He could not understand why there was such a huge difference in intelligence when they were both clan leaders. Wu Ku also did not choose to return to the martial clan because she was completely disappointed in the clan. From the start, the clan had only treated her as a tool. It was better to not have such a clan. Yi Xian brought Wu Ku back to the Cosmos Court star field. Although the Cosmos Court had been destroyed, there were still many people under the Cosmos Court. However, the middle and top forces of the Cosmos Court were all dead. Yi Xian found Xianxia. There was a woman beside her. She was the intelligence chief of the Cosmos Court, Xi Qing. Upon seeing Yi Xian, Xianxia said in a low voice, many star fields below are in complete chaos after knowing that the Cosmos Court was destroyed. Yi Xian frowned slightly. It's a complete mess? Xianxia nodded. Initially, with the Cosmos Court suppressing, many places were still in order. However, the evil forces have revived and we do not have enough manpower. Not only are we lacking manpower, we are also not strong enough to suppress the star fields below. We can only allow the strong forces in the star fields to do as they please. The most chaotic places are the Void Zone and the God's Penitentiary. These two places are no longer under our control. Yi Xian was curious. What is this place? Xi Qing suddenly said, the Void Zone is a rather complicated place. It's a world of nothingness and there are some special beings living there, the Void Tribe. The Void Tribe is extremely powerful and very difficult to deal with. Yi Xian suddenly asked, why do we have to deal with them? Xi Qing shook her head and smiled. It is not that we are purposely targeting them. The Void Tribe has a terrifying ability. They can turn the outside world into a void world. In other words, they can devour the outside world. If we let them out, the star fields outside will be devoured by them bit by bit. After devouring, they will become very strong. Therefore, the master of the Cosmos Court had no choice but to suppress them in the Void Zone. Yi Xian said in a deep voice, can't you suppress it now? Xi Qing nodded, yes. Most importantly, they know that the Cosmos Court has been destroyed. Therefore, they are preparing to leave their nest. Once they come out, it will be a huge disaster for the outside world. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian asked, what about the God's Penitentiary? Xi Qing said, a prison. There are some extremely evil people living there. There are also people on the Cosmos God Court's wanted list. Yi Xian thought for a while. Then he said, can I not care about that? Xianxia immediately shook her head. No. Yi Xian was confused. Why? Xianxia looked at Yi Xian. You are the founder of the Cosmic Divine Court and the first Divine Master. Also, you were the one who sealed the outermost void zone back then. Once you release them, they won't let you off. Xianxia continued, you have to interfere. If you don't, the entire universe will be filled with demons. Xianxia continued, you have to care. If you don't, the entire universe will be filled with demons. Xianxia stared at Yi Xian. You don't want to interfere? Yi Xian nodded. He really didn't want to interfere. The Void Zone and the God's Penitentiary had nothing to do with him. Yi Xian nodded. He really did not want to get involved. The Void Realm and the Divine Penitentiary had nothing to do with him. Xianxia nodded. Since you don't want to interfere, then leave. Yi Xian turned to leave. At this moment Xianxia said, if the Void Zone comes out, no one will be able to stay out of it. Especially Yi Xian. Yi Xian was puzzled. Why? Xianxia looked at Yi Xian. Like I said, you were the one who sealed them. Do you think they will let you go? Moreover, you can stay out of it, but what about your friends? For example, the 9-dimensional universe. Once the Void Tribe comes out, the entire universe will be their target. Moreover, if they are allowed to devour more worlds, their strength will grow stronger. Yi Xian was silent. At this moment Shi Qing suddenly said, the seal is gone. Hearing this, everyone looked at Shi Qing. Shi Qing's expression was dark. I just received news that the seal that sealed the strongest member of the Void Tribe has disappeared. Xianxia frowned. How is that possible? Shi Qing said solemnly, someone helped them. Xianxia asked, who? Azure City Yi Family Ancestral Shrine. Ancestors. Yi Xian has no talent and no virtue. From this moment on, Yi Xian's position as Crown Prince will be replaced by Yi Lang. The one who spoke was an old man in a black robe. Not far behind the old man stood a youth with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides were the Yi Mansion elders. Why? At this moment, a timid voice suddenly sounded in the ancestral shrine. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. This little girl was called Yi Ling, Yi Xian's younger sister. When she heard that the family wanted to remove Yi Xian, she rushed over despite her illness. The black-robed old man frowned. Yi Ling, what are you doing? The little girl called Yi Ling bowed to everyone in the ancestral shrine and said timidly, Grand Elder, my brother Yi Xian is the crown prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason? The Grand Elder looked coldly at Yi Ling. This is a family matter. What are you interrupting for? Leave. Yi Ling was clearly a little fearful. She did not dare to look the Great Elder in the eye, but she did not leave. Instead, she mustered up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed to the elders on both sides of the hall and said, Elders, my brother is currently fighting with the Li family for the mining rights of the mine in Nanshan. He is now fighting for the family and it is unknown whether he is alive or dead. However, the family has used a groundless excuse to remove his position as the crown prince. Impudent. The Grand Elder suddenly raged. Whether he's stripped or not, it's not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away. At this time the new crown prince Yi Lang suddenly laughed. He should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others. The Grand Elder coldly replied, then flog him 30 times. Very quickly 2 Yi Mansion guards rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists and said angrily, this is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the family for so many years. Even now he's fighting for the family. The family is unfair to him. One of the guards glanced at the new crown prince Yi Lang. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered, young master, Yi Lang inherits the title of crown prince. What are you shouting about? As he spoke he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. A crisp slap sounded. Yi Ling's right cheek instantly turned red and swollen. However, she did not cry. She only covered her cheek tightly. Yi Lang looked at the guard and smiled. What's your name? The guard hurriedly bowed. This subordinate Zhang Mu greets the crown prince. Yi Lang nodded. You're not bad. After I become the crown prince I need 10 guards. From now on you'll be my guard. Hearing this, Zhang Mu was overjoyed. He hurriedly bowed deeply. This subordinate will go through fire and water for the crown prince. I'm willing to risk my life for you. Yilang nodded. Drag him away. This person is causing trouble in the ancestral hall. Do not hold back. Understood? Zhang Mu glanced at Yilang. When he saw the killing intent in Yilang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yiling's hair and dragged her out. At this time Zhang Mu seemed to have seen something and stopped. Within the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. He was dressed in a tight-fitting robe that was tattered and covered in blood. This person was Zhou Xian, who had rushed back from the Nanshan. Seeing Zhou Xian, Yilang's lips curled into a cold smile. Within the ancestral hall, all the elders frowned. The great elder narrowed his eyes. His face was dark and gloomy. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Zhou Xian saw Zhang Mu dragging Yiling, his face turned savage. Who gave you the guts to touch my sister? When Zhang Mu saw Zhou Xian, his face changed. He quickly looked at Yilang and was about to speak. At this time Zhou Xian leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Zhou Xian's fist landed on his face. Ping. Zhang Mu felt his head spin and he stumbled and fell. Yilang did not stop there. He charged towards Zhang Mu again. At this time Yilang suddenly roared, Zhou Xian, he's my man. How dare you? Zhou Xian suddenly stepped on Zhang Mu's chest. Pooh. Zhang Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yilang's face turned ugly. Zhou Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, your man? As he spoke, he stomped on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's face turned into a bloody mess as he screamed, Prince, save me. Zhou Xian did not care about Zhang Mu as he walked to Yiling's side. Seeing Yiling's state, Zhou Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced apart. He clenched his fists and his entire body trembled. When Yiling saw Zhou Xian, her tears flowed. Brother, it hurts, it hurts. Hearing this, Zhou Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant he charged in front of Zhang Mu and kicked Zhang Mu's head. Ping. Qingqing Yi Clan Ancestral Hall. Ancestors, Zhou Xian has no talent, no virtue. From now on Zhou Xian's position as prince shall be replaced by Yilang. The one who spoke was an old man in black robes. Not far behind the old man, there was a youth with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yilang. On both sides there were the elders of the Yi clan. Why? Right at this moment, a slightly timid voice suddenly resounded within the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. This girl was called Yiling and she was Zhou Xian's younger sister. When she heard that Zhou Xian was to be replaced, she disregarded her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. Yiling, what are you doing? The little girl called Yiling bowed to everyone in the hall as she asked timidly, Great Elder, my brother Zhou Xian is the prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason? The Great Elder looked at Yiling coldly. This is a matter of the clan, what are you interrupting for? Leave. Yiling was obviously afraid, not daring to look at the Great Elder, but she did not leave. Instead she plucked up her courage and walked into the hall. Once again she bowed to the elders. Dear elders, my brother is fighting with the Li clan over the mining rights at Nanshan. He is fighting for the clan and it is unknown whether he is dead or alive. Yet the clan is using a groundless excuse to strip him of his position. This is really unfair. Impudent. The Great Elder suddenly raged. Whether or not he is crippled, it is not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away. At this time the new prince Yilang suddenly laughed. You should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others. The Great Elder replied coldly, then flog him 30 times. Very quickly 2 Yi clan guards rushed in. Yiling clenched her fists and said angrily, This is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the clan for so many years and even now he is fighting for the clan. The clan is unfair to him. One of the guards glanced at the new prince Yilang. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered, Young Master Yilang inherits the position of prince. What are you yelling about? As he spoke he raised his hand and slapped Yiling's face. Slap. A crisp slap sounded and the right side of Yiling's face instantly swelled up. However, she did not cry and only held her cheek tightly. Yilang looked at the guard and smiled. What's your name? The guard hurriedly bowed. This subordinate Zhang Mu greets the prince. Yilang nodded. You are very good. After I become the prince I will need 10 guards. From now on you will be my guard. Hearing this, Zhang Mu was overjoyed and hurriedly bowed deeply. This subordinate is willing to go through fire and water for the prince, even if it means death. Yilang nodded slightly. Drag him away. This person is disturbing the ancestral hall. Do not show mercy, understand? Zhang Mu glanced at Yilang, and when he saw the murderous intent in Yilang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yilang's hair and dragged her out. At this moment, Zhang Mu did not know what he saw, but he suddenly stopped. In the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. The young man was wearing a tight-fitting robe, and the robe was tattered and there was blood everywhere. The young man was Zhou Xian, who had rushed back from Nanshan. Seeing Zhou Xian, Yilang's mouth curled into a cold smile. In the ancestral hall, the elders frowned. The great elder narrowed his eyes, and his expression was frighteningly gloomy. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Zhou Xian saw Zhang Mu dragging Yiling, his expression turned savage. Who gave you the guts to touch my sister? When Zhang Mu saw Zhou Xian, his expression changed. He quickly looked at Yilang and was about to speak, when Zhou Xian suddenly leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Zhou Xian's fist landed on his face. Zhang Mu's head spun and he stumbled and fell. Yilang did not stop there and he rushed towards Zhang Mu again. At this time Yilang suddenly roared, Zhou Xian, he's my man, how dare you? Zhou Xian suddenly stepped on Zhang Mu's chest. Zhang Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yilang's expression turned ugly, while Zhou Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, your man? As he spoke, he stomped on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's face turned into a bloody mess as he screamed, Prince, save me. Zhou Xian did not care about Zhang Mu as he walked to Yiling's side. Seeing Yiling's appearance, Zhou Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced by a knife. He clenched his fists and his entire body trembled. When Yiling saw Zhou Xian, her tears flowed. Brother, it hurts, it hurts. Hearing this, Zhou Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant he charged in front of Zhang Mu and kicked Zhang Mu's head. Chapter 1622. Hearing Xiao Ta's words, Zhou Xian almost went berserk. This fellow has been very naughty recently. He needs to be taught a lesson. At this moment, Yan Xiaoxiao suddenly said, You can forge this imperial divinity armor. Zhou Xian looked at Yan Xiaoxiao and Yan Xiaoxiao said in a low voice, This armor can't stop the lady in the plain dress or the laws of the universe. However, not many people below them can easily break this armor. Ji Qing also said, This little one is saying that if you can really forge this armor, your combat strength will reach a very abnormal level. Zhou Xian asked, Is it easy to forge this armor? Yan Xiaoxiao shook her head. No. It's very difficult. Unless the Earth Spirit clan is willing to help with the entire clan. Even if they use their entire clan, I'm afraid they aren't 100% confident. Zhou Xian frowned slightly. Is it that difficult? Yan Xiaoxiao looked at Zhou Xian. It's much more difficult than you think. Zhou Xian thought for a moment and said, I'll make a trip to the Earth Spirit clan. He still decided to forge this imperial divinity armor. Although the experience with the divine war armor wasn't good, it was undeniable that it was very abnormal. When he had the divine war armor, he basically beat up mortal destroyers like they were his children. It was very useful. However, he couldn't encounter experts at the level of the laws of the universe. Apart from experts at this level, this armor was basically invincible. Now, the laws of the universe wouldn't easily appear. Therefore, this armor was worth forging. Zhou Xian immediately brought everyone to the Earth Spirit clan. Because they had the universal instrument, they arrived at the Earth Spirit world in a short while. After arriving at the Earth Spirit clan, Zhou Xian saw Xianxia and the left and right elders. After seeing Zhou Xian's blueprint, Xianxia immediately called for a meeting. Almost all the legendary blacksmiths in the entire Earth Spirit clan came. There were really a lot of them. There were a total of 39 legendary blacksmiths. At this moment, all the blacksmiths were surrounding Zhou Xian's blueprint. Everyone's hearts were filled with excitement and fanaticism. It was as if a man who had been single for decades had suddenly seen a naked beauty. Hunger and thirst. Inside the hall, everyone spoke up one after another. It was extremely intense. Yi Xian and the others were dumbfounded. Right at this moment, an angry shout suddenly resounded from within the hall. "All of you get out of the way." Yi Xian turned to look. Not far away, a long-bearded old man walked into the hall. The long-bearded old man wore a thick set of iron armor, and in his hand was a large hammer that emitted lightning. The blacksmiths in the hall were enraged when they heard the angry shout, but they fell silent when they saw that it was the long-bearded elder. Mountain Iron. He was the #1 blacksmith of the Earth Spirit clan. He had already created 3 perfect-level legendary divine items. In the Earth Spirit clan, his forging technique was #1. Xianxia quickly walked to the front of the hill and carefully looked at the blueprint. A moment later he became excited. After a long time he suddenly took a deep breath and said, "The person who designed this blueprint is truly the #1 genius in history." Xianxia said in a deep voice, "Elder Xianxia, is it possible for the Earth Spirit clan to forge this item?" After a moment of silence, Xianxia said, "It requires all of us to work together. Besides that, the materials are a huge problem because the Earth Spirit clan doesn't have some of the materials required. Moreover, in order to forge this we have to go to the fire world and use the natural advantages there. The most difficult part is still the materials and rune spells, because this armor requires a large number of rune spells and some ancient formations, which are our Earth Spirit clan's weakness in this area." As he spoke he shook his head. "It's difficult." Xianxia's face sank when he heard that. At this moment Yan Xiaoxiao suddenly said, "In terms of the materials, the Cosmos Court and the Earth Spirit clan should have enough. Even if it's not enough, we can use our power to search for them. So it's not a huge problem. Besides that, the fire world that Elder mentioned just happens to be under the control of the Cosmos Court. The Earth Spirit clan can move there. That's not a huge problem either. As for the talisman techniques and formations, I can help with that." Everyone looked at Yan Xiaoxiao and Yan Xiaoxiao said, "I think the most difficult part is the technique. If the Earth Spirit clan thinks that the technique is fine, then the other problems are not too big." "Technique?" Xianxia suddenly roared with laughter. "Don't worry, young miss, the technique is fine." Meanwhile, the right elder suddenly said, "Who does it belong to once it's forged? Who does it belong to?" The surroundings suddenly fell silent when they heard this. The members of the Earth Spirit clan had calmed down as well. Who does it belong to? They would definitely refuse if it belongs to the Cosmos Court. How could the Cosmos Court give a divine artifact that I created with the strength of my entire clan? Wouldn't that be like working for free? They refused. The fervor and excitement in the eyes of many of the Earth Spirit clan's blacksmiths had gradually vanished. Yan Xiaoxiao gazed at Yi Xian. The armor was definitely for Yi Xian, but the precondition was that Yi Xian had to convince the Earth Spirit clan. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and said, "Uncle Xianxia, to tell you the truth, my father gave this blueprint to me." Xianxia gazed at Yi Xian. "Brother Yang? The god of protection?" Everyone gazed at Yi Xian. Yi Xian nodded, "Yes. He said that he has a very good relationship with the Earth Spirit clan, and he asked me to give this blueprint to all of you to help me forge it." When he spoke up to this point he glanced at the blacksmiths from the Earth Spirit clan. "Of course, I'm aware that it's extremely difficult to forge and the materials consumed are incalculable. So it's fine if the Earth Spirit clan feels that it's difficult for me to forge it. I can just give up on forging it." Xianxia suddenly spoke furiously, "What are you talking about? We're all family, so it's not difficult at all." Yi Xian glanced at the other blacksmiths from the Earth Spirit clan. Meanwhile, Xianxia suddenly said, "Everyone, the god of protection asked this little fellow to come to us. What do all of you think?" As he spoke he gazed at the right elder. The right elder hesitated for a moment and said, "Heir." Meanwhile Xianxia suddenly said, "What do you mean? Since the god of protection asked this little fellow to come to us, then it proves that the god of protection treats us as brothers. Our Earth Spirit clan will definitely help you." As he spoke he glanced at the blacksmiths in the hall. "Do all of you have any questions?" All of them shook their heads. Actually, all of them were quite happy at this moment, including Xianxia. What did it mean for the god of protection to ask this little fellow to bring the blueprint to the Earth Spirit clan? It meant that the god of protection really treated the Earth Spirit clan as one of their own. Of course they had to help. Xianxia smiled. "Then let's begin right now." Yi Xian immediately bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Uncle Xianxia, uncles and elders." At this moment his heart was still a little complicated. His father's face was really not just ordinary. Xianxia smiled. We're all family, so there's no need to be so polite. The others nodded as well. Family. Those 3 words were really nice to hear. Xian smiled. Then I'll make the decision to give the fire dimension to the Earth Spirit clan. In the future the fire dimension will belong to the Earth Spirit clan. All of them were visibly moved when they heard this. They'd coveted the fire dimension for a very long time. Xianxia spoke in a low voice. Little fellow, is that true? The fire dimension belongs to the Cosmos Court. Xian smiled. I'm the divine master of the Cosmos Court now. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Obviously, they didn't know what happened in the Cosmos Court. That was normal. The entire Earth Spirit clan was only interested in forging. They really didn't care about anything else. Xianxia looked at Xian. Is that true? Xian smiled. Yes. Xianxia sighed. In just a few days, you've become the divine master of the Cosmos Court. Xian smiled. It's a long story. Xianxia nodded. We'll talk about it later. Let's forge this divine armor first. Then he looked at Shantai. You'll be the chief blacksmith. From now on you can order everyone in the Earth Spirit clan, including me. Apart from that, you can use all the materials. Shantai nodded. Sure. Soon the Earth Spirit clan started to get busy. Using all the power of the clan. Yan Xiaoxiao glanced at Xian. Young Master Yi, your father seems to be very influential. Xian said with a smile. Very bold. Yan Xiaoxiao nodded. Then shall we go to the Void World? There are our people there who chose to stay and continue to be loyal to us. They're in a terrible situation now. Xian nodded. Let's go and find out more about it. Yan Xiaoxiao nodded. Then let's go. Xian and the rest left, leaving the Earth Spirit clan in charge of forging the divine armor. Along the way Xian was silent. He was most worried about Mu Xiaodao and Xiao Er. He didn't know if they would be in danger. He also wanted to make them stay, but he couldn't do anything about it. They had their own thoughts and he couldn't control them. Soon Xian took them to the Void Realm outside the domain. However, when they arrived at the Void World star area, Yan Xiaoxiao frowned. Something's wrong. Mo Xiaoshuang looked around and slowly clenched his right hand. Xian also realized that something was wrong. At this moment the educated youth suddenly said, I can't contact them. Yan Xiaoxiao said in a low voice, You can't contact them? The educated youth nodded. I can't contact them at all. Then she looked around. Let's retreat first. Yan Xiaoxiao nodded and everyone was about to retreat. However, at this moment something strange happened. In the starry sky, many floating objects suddenly appeared and they slowly fell. After a closer look, everyone's expression changed. These floating objects were all corpses. There were thousands of corpses. The educated youth looked at the corpses and said softly, Our people are all gone. At this moment, a coffin suddenly fell from the sky and landed near Xian in the blink of an eye. There was nothing in the coffin. At this moment, a woman suddenly appeared in front of everyone. The woman was wearing a pure white robe. She looked at Xian and smiled. Young Master Yi, this is the first time we've met. Take this coffin as a greeting gift. Do you like it? P.S. Reader, Egg, take this monthly ticket as a meeting gift. Do you like it? Green Phoenix, I love it. I like it a lot. Happy National Day. Love you all. Chapter 1623. Looking at the coffin in front of him, Xian was silent for a long time before saying, Before coming here I wanted to see if we could talk. Now it seems like there's no way. The white-robed woman smiled. Talk? Young Master Yi, as you said, there's really nothing to talk about. Xian looked at the white-robed woman. The life edict has fallen. The white-robed woman nodded. I know. Xian smiled. So, we still don't want to talk? The white-robed woman smiled. No. Unless you die. Xian nodded. Then we won't talk. As soon as he finished speaking, a cold light suddenly appeared in front of the white-robed woman. The one who attacked was Xiao Mu. Since they were not going to talk, they would naturally kill. However, Xiao Mu's attack missed. The white-robed woman had appeared thousands of feet away. She looked at Xian and smiled. Young Master Yi, after hundreds of thousands of years of suppression, this enmity cannot be resolved with your death. We'll meet again in the 9th dimension. As soon as she finished speaking, her body became illusory. At the same time, the surrounding starry sky suddenly disappeared bit by bit. Completely disappeared. Seeing this, Yan Xiaoxiao's expression sank. They're devouring this world. They're even devouring their own world. Mo Xiaoshuang said softly, they're not leaving any path of retreat for themselves. Yi Xian said, let's go. As soon as he finished speaking, he activated the universal apparatus and disappeared with everyone. His top priority now was to return to the 9th dimension. The 9th dimension still did not know about this powerful void tribe. He had to let the Undying Emperor tribe know first. Otherwise, if they fought in the future, the Undying Emperor tribe would suffer a great loss. Not long after Yi Xian and the others left, the entire void realm turned into nothingness and completely disappeared. For this world to recover, it would take at least hundreds of thousands of years. Time passed. In the 9th dimension. After Yi Xian brought everyone back to the 9th dimension, Yi Xian went to find Dong Lijing. In the hall, Dong Lijing was silent. The rest of the Undying Emperor clan's elders also had grave expressions on their faces. After a long time, Higashi Yasushi suddenly said, so, the Void Race's objective is the entire universe? Yan Xiaoxiao nodded. The entire universe. The more worlds they devoured, the stronger they would become. If they were allowed to devour the known universe, their strength would reach a terrifying level. No, we have to stop them now. If we let them devour all the way to the 9th dimension, they will be even more powerful than they are now. Dong Lijing shook his head. Miss Yan, if the Void Tribe is really as you say, then we might not be able to stop them. In the past, the Cosmos God Court was able to suppress them because the Cosmos God Court's founder had set up a seal in the Void Zone, as well as the suppression of the Cosmic Maxim. But now the Cosmic Maxim is on their side. And on our side, the 3 swords aren't here and the Cosmos God Court's founder. At this point, she glanced at Yi Xian. Can you recover your memory and strength now? Yi Xian shook his head. No. There's no chance of winning. Higashi Yasushi said helplessly. Yan Xiaoxiao nodded. Indeed, the chance of winning isn't great. However, this isn't a matter of whether we have a chance of winning or not. The Void Tribe's target isn't just Lord God Yi, but the entire universe. No one will be spared. Higashi Yasushi nodded. We have to fight. With that, she looked at Yi Xian. What do you think? Yi Xian thought about it, then looked at Xi Qing. Miss Xi Qing, I need to understand the Void Tribe's situation in detail, including their overall strength. Xi Qing nodded. Leave this to me. With that, she took out a voice transmission stone and handed it to Yi Xian. With this, you can contact me at any time. If there's anything you want to know, you can ask me. Yi Xian put away the voice transmission stone and Xi Qing said, we must go to the God Penitentiary now. That place is still under our control. If the people imprisoned there come out, it will be very troublesome. Yi Xian nodded and stood up. Let's go now. With that, he led everyone and disappeared from the hall. Yi Xian also understood that when he inherited the benefits of the Cosmos God Court's founder, he would also inherit the Cosmos God Court's founder's grudges. This was something that could not be helped. In the beginning he wanted to escape, but he knew very well that he could not escape at all. When he admitted that he was the Cosmos God Court's lord, he had to accept some karma and grudges even if he did not want to. At this time he could not be indecisive. If they were enemies, they were enemies, and if they were friends, he had to do it. If he hesitated, many people would die. After Yi Xian and the others left, Higashi Yasushi walked to the entrance of the hall. She looked at the sky outside the hall with a trace of worry in her eyes. At this time, Higashi Zhan said softly, "Are you worried about the Undying Emperor clan's future?" Higashi Yasushi nodded. "We chose him, but at the same time he brought us many unknown karma," Higashi Zhan smiled. "Do you regret it?" Higashi Yasushi shook her head. "No. Because he has the Undying Emperor clan's blood." Higashi Zhan said softly. "The Undying Emperor clan's future, from now on, is unknown." Higashi Yasushi nodded. "Pass down my orders. Level 1 alert. All clansmen return to the Undying World immediately and prepare for battle." Prepare for battle. Very soon, the experts of the Undying Emperor clan rushed back to the Undying Emperor clan. God Prison. With the universal apparatus, it was easy for Yi Xian to go anywhere. Under normal circumstances, it would take a long time for them to travel from the 9 dimensions to the God Prison. However, with the universal apparatus, they reached the god prison in less than an hour. After arriving at the god prison, Xian instantly felt many powerful auras. At the side, Xiao said, "This is the god prison. There are many powerful people in the star field imprisoned here. And now this place is about to go out of control." At this time, a middle-aged man suddenly appeared in front of Xian and the others. When the middle-aged man saw Xiao, his expression relaxed. "Lady Yan." As he spoke, he gazed at Xian, hesitated for a moment and then bowed slightly. "Greetings, divine leader." Xian nodded. "What's the situation here?" The middle-aged man spoke in a low voice. "After those fellows found out about the changes in the divine court, they started to break the seals. We lack manpower here, so we can't maintain it at all. At most, the seals will vanish in half a day." Xian suddenly said, "Who's the strongest person imprisoned here?" The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment before he said, "Madwoman." Xian frowned slightly. "Madwoman?" Xiao said, "The person ranked second on the universe wanted list. An expert at the pericelestial realm." Xian knew that above the mortal destroyer realm was the pericelestial realm, and above the pericelestial realm was the supreme god realm. That woman with the spear and Longjing was a supreme god realm expert. Xian fell silent for a moment before he said, "Take me to see her." The middle-aged man immediately shook his head. "It's too dangerous." Xian smiled and said, "It's fine." Xiao said, "Take us there." If it was only Xian, she would definitely be worried. Although Xian was strong, he would definitely not be able to fight against an expert at the pericelestial realm. The reason why she was not worried was that Xian had Xiaomu by his side. Who was this person? This was a person who could fight against the avatar of the law of the universe. An ordinary pericelestial realm expert was really not a match for Xiaomu. She could even fight against a supreme god realm expert. Of course, not like Longjing. Longjing could not fight against the avatar of the law of the universe, but she could beat the avatar of the law of the universe. Xiaomu was at a disadvantage when facing the avatar of the law of the universe. There was still a difference. Under the middle-aged man's lead, everyone came to a mountain wall. The middle-aged man silently chanted a spell, and the mountain wall suddenly split open. Everyone saw a woman. The woman was wearing a red dress and her long hair fluttered in the wind. At this moment she was dressing in front of a mirror. The woman was very beautiful and she even had a smile on her face. She seemed to be very satisfied with her appearance. Beside Xian, the middle-aged man said in a deep voice, "Divine Master, be careful." Xian nodded. He looked at the woman. "Miss, can we talk?" In the mountain crack, the woman turned to look at Xian and the corner of her lips curled up. "He is very handsome." Xian said with a smile, "I think so too." The woman suddenly got up and walked to the door of the mountain crack. She carefully looked at Xian and smiled. "I heard that you are the founder of the Cosmos God Court?" Xian nodded, "Yes." The woman blinked. "Can you let me go?" Xian nodded, "Yes." Hearing this, the woman was slightly stunned. The next moment she suddenly laughed. "Really?" Xian turned to look at the middle-aged man. "Let her go." The middle-aged man was a little hesitant. Xian said again, "I said let her go." The middle-aged man's heart skipped a beat, and he felt a chill down his spine. He knew that an expert had locked onto him. Must be that mysterious killer. The middle-aged man immediately bowed. "Divine Master, I have no right to let her go. If you want to let her go, you have to cast a spell to remove the seal." Xian turned to look at Xiao. Xiao said, "Break it forcefully." Xian nodded, "Xiaomu." As soon as he said that, a dagger suddenly stuck in front of the crack and the next moment an invisible barrier was shattered. The woman regained her freedom. The woman walked slowly towards Xian. She walked in front of Xian and looked at Xian. "Why did you let me go?" Xian smiled. "You are so beautiful. I can't bear to lock you up here." The woman was slightly stunned and then she laughed. "You are very interesting." As soon as she said that, she turned around and left. After a few steps, the woman suddenly stopped and said, "Do you need me to thank you?" Xian smiled. "If you want, I won't refuse." The woman turned around and looked at Xian. "Don't let that mysterious little girl leave you or you will die." Xian said, "Are you going to kill me?" The woman shook her head. No. As she said that, she turned around and left. However, she stopped after a few steps and then she smiled. If I were you, I would run away immediately. As soon as she said that, she disappeared. In the field, Yi Xian was silent. At this moment, Xiao Mu appeared in front of him and she looked at Yi Xian. Hurry. Go. At this moment, Xiao Ta suddenly said, Young master, danger is approaching. Danger. I can feel it. A lot of danger is surrounding you and it's probably many meters away. Hurry up and praise me. Yi Xian. Chapter 1624. Praise me. Yi Xian was speechless. This Xiao Ta was becoming more and more abnormal. At this moment Xiao Mu said, Let's go. Let's go. Yi Xian nodded and turned to leave. He knew that anyone who could make Xiao Mu so serious was definitely not an ordinary person. However, just as they left the prison, a cold light suddenly shone from Yan Xiaoxiao's back. Yan Xiaoxiao's pupils shrank as she felt the aura of death approaching her. He could not resist at all. At this moment, another cold light appeared behind her. Boom. A muffled sound rang out and a shadow retreated rapidly. Xiao Mu appeared beside Yan Xiaoxiao. A few hundred feet in front of her, the shadow gradually disappeared as it retreated. It disappeared. Yan Xiaoxiao said solemnly, It's an assassin. Yi Xian looked around. Let's go. Everyone retreated immediately. At this moment, countless shadows appeared in front of them. These afterimages were illusory and real like ghosts and spirits, extremely strange. This was not the main point. The main point was that they were all at the mortal termination stage. Xiao Mu, who was beside Yi Xian, held a dagger in her hand. Her eyes swept across the shadows but she did not make a move. She did not dare to leave Yi Xian's side. Without her, Yi Xian and the rest could not withstand these assassins. Actually, Yi Xian was still fine. Although he did not have the God of War armor, he still had a full set of divine equipment. However, Yan Xiaoxiao and the young man could not withstand them. At this moment, Mo Xiaoshuang suddenly said, We have to retreat. Yi Xian shook his head. We can't. As he said this, the sword sheath suddenly appeared behind him. The next moment 12 swords flew out. 12 rays of sword light tore through the sky, yet they struck empty air because those afterimages had already vanished without a trace. Seeing this, Yi Xian's face darkened. Mortal termination stage was not scary. Mortal termination stage assassins were scary. As if he thought of something, Yi Xian's pupils shrank. Not good. They are trying to hold us back. The 9-dimensional universe is in danger. The expressions of the other women changed when they heard this. Yi Xian wanted to leave immediately. However, at this moment, an afterimage suddenly appeared in front of him. However, it was blocked by Xiao Mu. In the next moment, several afterimages appeared. These afterimages weren't just extremely swift. They didn't possess any auras, so it was utterly impossible to sense them with divine sense. So, they were in an extremely passive state when facing these assassins because they could only counterattack when the assassins attacked. Yi Xian immediately said, Xiao Mu, stop them. As he spoke, the space beneath his feet trembled slightly, and he directly used the space-time shuttle boots to disappear on the spot. He could not use the universal apparatus here because the universal apparatus needed some time to teleport, and these assassins would not give him that time. When Yi Xian had disappeared, the space around him suddenly started to tremble. Apparently, someone wanted to chase after Yi Xian. However, at this moment Xiao Mu suddenly disappeared. Chi wrong. Rays of cold light suddenly appeared in the surrounding tens of thousands of zhang. Only the voice could be heard but not the person. Yan Xiaoxiao turned to look at Mo Xiaoshuang. Miss Xiaoshuang, immediately send your people to the 9 dimensions. Mo Xiaoshuang nodded. I have already informed them. My people are rushing to the 9 dimensions at full speed. Yan Xiaoxiao glanced at the densely packed cold lights in the distance and said in a deep voice, Let's go. Little Mu had already stopped those assassins, and the few of them would only be a burden if they stayed here. The 3 women immediately retreated. On the other side, Yi Xian appeared in an unknown star field. He immediately took out the universal apparatus and was about to teleport. However, at this moment his pupils suddenly shrank and he suddenly turned around and slashed down with his sword. The sword slashed down but there was nothing. Yi Xian squinted his eyes. Xiao Ta, help me sense it. After a moment of silence, Xiao Ta said, I can't sense it. Yi Xian was speechless. At this moment Yi Xian's pupils shrank, and he turned to the side and slashed down with his sword. Boom! The sword light shattered and Yi Xian directly retreated thousands of zhang away. However, there was nothing in front of him. Yi Xian looked around but he could not sense anything. Hee hee. At this moment, a strange laughter suddenly appeared in the surroundings. Although the laughter appeared in the surroundings, it also felt like it was right next to his ears. Yi Xian said in his heart, "Xiao Ta, put in more effort." Xiao Ta said, "Young master, I am just a Ta." Yi Xian suddenly opened his palm and Xiao Ta appeared in his hand. At this moment Yi Xian suddenly turned around and Xiao Ta blocked in front of him. Boom! Xiao Ta trembled violently and then directly flew out with Yi Xian. This time they directly flew thousands of zhang away. Xiao Ta wailed, "Young master, what are you doing?" Yi Xian said calmly, "I feel that we should share blessings and difficulties together, what do you think?" Xiao Ta grumbled, "You are bullying Ta." Yi Xian looked around, "I don't care, you think of a way to help me get rid of this mysterious killer." Xiao Ta said in shock, "Young master, what can I do?" Yi Xian hesitated then said, "How about you stay behind and I go first?" Xiao Ta suddenly jumped up, "Damn, young master, are you talking like a human?" Yi Xian said in a deep voice, "Xiao Ta, I must return to the 9 dimensions." What he was most worried about now was the 9 dimensions. These killers must be here to stop them, to stop him from returning to the 9 dimensions. After a moment of silence Xiao Ta said, "Xianxia, come out and help me." Xianxia said, "I am asleep." Xiao Ta, Yi Xian was speechless, "You are asleep and you still talk." At this time Xianxia said again, "Xiao Ta, young master, don't trick me anymore. I'm just a cow, an honest cow." Yi Xian looked around, there was no movement around, he immediately took out the cosmological apparatus and was about to activate it. At this moment, a ghost suddenly appeared in front of him. Yi Xian pulled out his sword and slashed. Boom! The sword slashed through the air, there was nothing. Yi Xian's face darkened. Now he was even more certain that the other party was stopping him, not letting him return to the 9 dimensions. Yi Xian directly activated the spacetime boots and disappeared in the blink of an eye. He disappeared at the end of the starry sky. As he was traveling he took out the cosmological apparatus and was about to activate it, but at this moment, a fist suddenly flew towards him. Yi Xian had to stop and his sword stabbed out. Boom! Yi Xian was directly sent flying thousands of feet away, and as soon as he stopped, a laughter sounded around him. Yi Xian's face darkened as if he had thought of something, he suddenly strangely disappeared. Invisible armor. After activating the invisible armor, his whole body directly entered that unknown world. The surrounding starry sky immediately quietened down. Yi Xian directly took out the cosmological apparatus, but it could not be activated in this unknown world. Yi Xian frowned, "How is this possible?" As he spoke he looked around. Could it be that this world is different from our world? He tried a few more times, but he could not activate the cosmological apparatus at all. Seeing this scene Yi Xian's face darkened. He looked out at the outside world, the starry sky outside was very calm, the stars were bright and the galaxy was brilliant, it was too beautiful to behold. But he knew that the mysterious person was definitely still here. At this moment he did not dare to wander around because this place was too strange. Yi Xian looked up, he saw those white dots again. In fact he was a bit curious because those white dots were very likely to be teleportation arrays. If they were really teleportation arrays, then where did they lead to? Yi Xian suddenly said, "Xiao Ta, do you want to go and explore?" Xiao Ta suddenly became anxious. "Young master, what's wrong with you recently? Why do you always want to trick pagoda?" Yi Xian said with a smile, "You are the #1 pagoda in the universe, what are you afraid of?" Xiao Ta said indifferently, "Young master, don't try to trick me. I will not be fooled, although I am only a pagoda, I am a pagoda with intelligence." Yi Xian. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind, "The 9-dimensional universe is in danger, return quickly." It was the voice of an educated youth. Hearing this Yi Xian's face sank, he directly left that unknown world, and when he appeared in the starry sky, that strange laughter sounded again. At this moment a voice sounded in Yi Xian's mind, "Little guy, go. I will stop this person for you." Hearing this Yi Xian was stunned then overjoyed. Yi Xian directly took out the universal apparatus, and when he was about to activate it, the ghostly shadow appeared again, but at this moment, A claw suddenly slapped the space in front of Yi Xian. Boom! The space in front of Yi Xian directly collapsed, and an afterimage retreated rapidly, this time retreating thousands of feet. At this moment Yi Xian had already disappeared. At Yi Xian's original position, a demon beast appeared. Xianxia coldly looked into the distance. At this moment, the strange afterimage suddenly became illusory, it was about to disappear. Xianxia once again slapped down. Boom! The starry sky within tens of thousands of miles directly exploded, and the afterimage frantically retreated from the shattered spatial black hole. 9-dimensional universe, undying world. On this day in the sky above the undying world, a white-robed woman with a cinnabar dot between her eyebrows suddenly appeared. Opposite the white-robed woman was Dongli Jing. The woman looked at Dongli Jing and smiled. "Do you know who I am?" Dongli Jing said, "The Nihility tribe." The woman nodded. "Zhou Xian. That is my name." Dongli Jing looked at Zhou Xian. "Do you want to destroy my undying emperor tribe?" The woman smiled. "No. We want to devour your undying emperor tribe bloodline." As soon as she finished speaking, the space behind her suddenly disappeared bit by bit. Devour the undying world. Dongli Jing stared at Zhou Xian. "You also have a special bloodline." Zhou Xian smiled. "Yes. Your bloodline is too tempting. Devouring your bloodline, my Nihility tribe will become even stronger because we can obtain your undying power." After a moment of silence, Dongli Jing said, "Open the ancestral shrine, please invite all the ancestors' souls." As soon as he finished speaking, the ancestral shrine's door suddenly opened, and the next moment, the souls of the ancestors soared into the sky from the ancestral shrine. All the ancestors' souls. This was the Undying Emperor tribe's final trump card. The ultimate trump card. P.S. Everyone happy National Day. I'm going to go have fun too. Chapter 1625. When he saw Zhou Xian, Dongli Jing knew that the Undying Imperial clan could not fight against the Void tribe. Under such circumstances, they could only use their strongest trump card to buy some time for the Undying Imperial clan to have hope. Yi Xian and the others had not appeared yet. They must have been delayed. Only when Yi Xian and the others returned would the Undying Imperial clan have hope. As the ancestral souls appeared, the space above the Undying Imperial clan began to boil. 36 ancestral souls. They were all former patriarchs and top experts of the Undying Imperial clan. Although they had died, they would leave a strand of their soul in the ancestral shrine. This was the last trump card of the Undying Imperial clan. Zhou Xian grinned when he saw those ancestor souls. "Miss, not to mention that they're only souls, even if their true bodies are here, they're merely ants to my Void tribe." Dongli Jing said, "You have two goals. One is to devour the universe and the other is to kill Yi Xian, right?" Zhou Xian nodded. "Yes." Dongli Jing looked at Zhou Xian. "Miss, do you know that the life law has died?" Zhou Xian smiled. "I know. Not only that, but I also know that there are two very powerful experts behind him. One is the green-clothed man, and the other is the plain-dressed woman, right?" Dongli Jing smiled. "The Void tribe is stronger than them?" Zhou Xian shook his head. "Of course not. Someone who can kill the universe law is not someone the Void tribe can fight against." Dongli Jing was curious. "Then why do you still target him?" Zhou Xian smiled. "If the Undying Imperial clan had been suppressed for hundreds of thousands of years, perhaps you would understand how the Void tribe feels." Dongli Jing shook his head. "At least you are still alive." Zhou Xian laughed. "Miss, we don't have much of a choice. Why did the universe law let us go? Is it because of love? Of course not. If the Void tribe wants freedom, we can only submit to the universe law. Whether it is the Void tribe or the universe law, if we want to obtain true freedom, we can only kill the young Master Yi and make him disappear completely." Higashi Yasuharu smiled and said, "Have you thought about how to deal with the people behind him after killing him?" Zhou Xian shook his head. "This isn't something my Void tribe should consider. This was something that the laws of the universe should consider. And I believe that since they dared to go against those two, they must have a certain degree of confidence and reliance. What do you think?" Higashi Kei shook his head. "It's a pity that you haven't seen them. Otherwise you might change your mind." Zhou Xian laughed. "I won't. Because you don't know how our Void tribe has been living for over 100,000 years. If he recovers his memories from his previous life, He'll definitely suppress our Void Tribe again and even annihilate our Void Tribe. Thus, just like the universe law, we can only fight to the death. Saying that, she looked around. Miss, you want to wait for help, but I can tell you that you won't be able to wait that long. Because the people of the universal law have already stalled that young Master Yi. And even if he comes alone, it won't be of much use. After all, he's really weak now. As her voice fell, the space around her suddenly began to disappear bit by bit. They made their move. Higashike suddenly said, Ancestors, thank you for your trouble. In the sky above Higashike, the ancestral souls of the undying imperial clan nodded. In the next moment they charged towards the members of the Void Tribe. Zhou Xian smiled. Destroy them. As soon as she finished speaking, 19 men in black suddenly appeared behind her. These men in black held long scimitars in their hands and carried scabbards on their backs. After they appeared, they charged towards the ancestors of the undying imperial clan. A great battle had begun. However, as soon as the two sides clashed, it became a one-sided battle. The ancestral souls of the undying imperial clan were no match for the men in black at all. One by one, the ancestral souls exploded. When they saw this, the expressions of the undying imperial clan powerhouses below changed. Higashike looked up into the sky. No one knew what he was thinking. Soon, all the ancestral souls of the undying imperial clan disappeared. However, not a single one of the men in black died. After killing the ancestral souls of the undying imperial clan, the 19 men in black respectfully retreated behind Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian looked at Higashike and laughed. It's over. Is that so? At this moment, a voice came from the side. In the next moment, Yi Xian appeared in front of everyone. When he saw that the undying imperial clan was still here, Yi Xian heaved a sigh of relief. If the undying imperial clan had made any mistakes, he would never forgive himself. In the end, this was his Yi Xian's karma. When he saw Yi Xian, Higashike heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. The Void Tribe was definitely not something that the undying imperial clan could fight against. This was because the Void Tribe did not belong to the same era as the undying imperial clan. The Void Tribe belonged to the era of the Cosmos God Court's founder. When he saw Yi Xian, Zhou Xian smiled and said, Young Master Yi is very capable. You were actually able to escape the assassins of the Cosmos laws. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian said, Clan leader, let the younger generation retreat. Higashike looked at Yi Xian and said, There's no need. Because their target is not only you, but the undying imperial clan as well. They want to devour our bloodline. If we lose today, everyone will die. The devouring bloodline. Yi Xian frowned slightly, and then he looked at Zhou Xian and said, Your bloodline is special as well. Zhou Xian smiled and said, Actually, I want to devour your bloodline even more because you possess two extraordinary bloodlines. However, your other bloodline is too overbearing and I'm not confident in my ability. As she spoke, she glanced below and smiled. If we're able to devour the bloodline of the undying imperial clan, then the overall strength of the Void Tribe will rise by a level. Yi Xian opened his palm and a sword appeared in it. At the same time, a sword box appeared on his back. Yi Xian looked at Zhou Xian and said, Shall we fight first? Zhou Xian smiled and said, You want to buy time. I can fulfill your wish because I need some time as well. Young Master Yi, please. Yi Xian suddenly vanished on the spot. At the instant he vanished, 12 blood-red swords suddenly slashed through the battlefield. His space tore apart as 12 rays of light instantly slashed towards Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian didn't dodge. When the 12 rays of light slashed towards her, she suddenly clenched her right hand that was behind her back and said, Defend. Bang. The 12 rays of light were instantly stopped by an invisible barrier, and they couldn't move an inch forward. Zhou Xian grinned and said, Limit breaker. Bang. The 12 rays of light exploded into pieces, and the 12 swords were blasted flying. Meanwhile, a sword suddenly stabbed towards the center of her forehead. However, it stopped when it was still half an inch away from her forehead. Yi Xian held his sword and stared fixedly at Zhou Xian. No matter how hard Zhou Xian tried, the sword was unable to move an inch forward. Zhou Xian grinned and then he suddenly opened his right hand and clenched it. Bang. In an instant, Yi Xian was blasted flying along with his sword. Meanwhile, Zhou Xian suddenly took a step forward and punched through the air. A fist smashed towards Yi Xian from afar, and Yi Xian hurriedly raised his sword to block it. Bang! Yi Xian and his sword were instantly blasted over 10 kilometers away. As soon as Yi Xian stopped, the space in an area of over 10,000 kilometers started to crack inch by inch. However, Zhou Xian's fist was still there and hadn't vanished. Yi Xian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His body was extremely weak right now because it had been shattered earlier, and his Dao physique was practically gone. Yi Xian didn't rely too much on his body and he just looked at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian smiled and said, "Your sword Dao realm is too low. You're no threat to me." Yi Xian smiled, "Is that so?" As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly vanished on the spot. In the distance, Zhou Xian suddenly clenched her right hand, and Yi Xian's sword was stopped an inch away from her forehead. Zhou Xian looked at Yi Xian. "When I fight you, it's because of the suppression of our realms. Our realms aren't on the same level. Do you understand?" As soon as she finished speaking, she waved her right hand lightly. Bang! The 10-kilometer space in front of her turned into nothingness, and Yi Xian himself appeared 10 kilometers away. Zhou Xian slowly walked towards Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, I think it's time to end this." As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly disappeared. When she reappeared, she was already in front of Yi Xian. Just as she was about to attack, Yi Xian suddenly grinned and 10 clones suddenly appeared. These 10 clones weren't Yi Xian's clones but Xiao Mu's clones. Xiao Mu had already arrived. Previously, the mysterious mirror of heaven and earth couldn't duplicate Xiao Mu because Xiao Mu's realm was too high, and it was beyond the scope of the mysterious mirror of heaven and earth. Now it could duplicate Xiao Mu because of Xiao Mu's cooperation. If the person being duplicated voluntarily cooperated, then the situation would be completely different. Of course, it still wouldn't work if the person's realm was too high. For example, even if the plain-dressed woman cooperated, the mysterious mirror of heaven and earth couldn't duplicate her. This was because the plain-dressed woman's realm had exceeded the mysterious mirror of heaven and earth's understanding. When the 10 clones of Xiao Mu appeared, Zhou Xian immediately frowned. At this moment, a dagger suddenly appeared behind her neck. Xiao Mu. Zhou Xian clenched her right hand. Bang! An invisible barrier blocked Xiao Mu's dagger, but the next moment the invisible barrier shattered. At this moment Zhou Xian had already disappeared, and when she reappeared she was already hundreds of meters away. There was a blood stain on the back of Zhou Xian's neck. Zhou Xian looked at Xiao Mu who was beside Yi Xian. "You're indeed the strongest assassin. Amazing." Yi Xian patted Xiao Mu's shoulder lightly and Xiao Mu slowly disappeared. An invisible assassin was the most terrifying. Yi Xian looked at Zhou Xian in the distance. Zhou Xian smiled. "Pi people are here too." As soon as she finished speaking, the space behind her suddenly trembled. Yi Xian looked behind Zhou Xian. A moment later he took out his Xiaota. "Call for reinforcements." After a while Xiaota asked, "Who should I call?" Yi Xian said, "Just call for anything." Xiaota suddenly jumped up. "Young master, do you think I'm Xiao Bai? Important things need to be repeated 3 times. I'm just a tower. I'm just a tower. I'm just a tower." Yi Xian looked behind Zhou Xian in the distance, his expression growing more solemn. "Xiaota, if you don't call for help I will take you with me and explode." F***CK. Xiaota jumped up and down. "Young master, we can't play like this. Please respect me. I have human rights too. Oh, I mean Ta's rights." Chapter 1626. Yi Xian said in a low voice, "Big brother, you should at least call for some help. Otherwise we'll all be lying here today." Xiaota fell silent. Yi Xian looked down at the experts from the Immortal Emperor clan. There was no fear in the eyes of any of the Immortal Emperor clan's experts. Everyone knew that they could not win, but no one was afraid. Battle intent. This clan could die, they could be exterminated, but they would never be afraid. Yi Xian smiled when he saw the battle intent in the undying Imperial clan's experts' eyes. He suddenly roared, "Today I will live or die with you. Live or die with you." Countless experts from the undying Imperial clan roared. Their voices were like thunder shaking the clouds. Their morale soared. Yi Xian turned around to look at Zhou Xian. A large group of black-armored experts had appeared behind Zhou Xian. These black-armored experts were all clad in thick pitch-black armor. It was unknown what the black armor was made of, but it was as smooth as a mirror and shone brightly. These black-armored experts held long spears in their hands. There were more than 10,000 of them. The weakest among them was at the mortal realm. 10,000 mortal realm experts. This lineup could only be described as terrifying. The 12 black-robed men holding sickles behind Zhou Xian were all at the mortal extinguisher stage. This lineup crushed the undying imperial clan side. Zhou Xian looked at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, I can see the shock in your eyes. However, I can tell you that what you're seeing now is only the tip of the iceberg for my Void Tribe. Although my Void Tribe has been trapped in the Void Zone for hundreds of thousands of years, we have not wasted our time. Hatred has made my Void Tribe even stronger. Yi Xian looked at Xiao Ta in his hands. Xiao Ta, go find my father. Let him avenge me. Then he looked up at Zhou Xian and grinned. Cut the crap. Let's fight. With that, he turned into a ray of sword light and charged forward. Down below, Dongli Jing suddenly said, Fight. Fight to the last man. As soon as she finished speaking, she also rushed out. Below, countless undying Emperor clan experts soared into the sky. Fight. If they lost this battle, the undying Imperial clan would be exterminated. The undying Imperial clan had no other choice but to fight. Yi Xian, who was at the forefront, directly activated his Mad Demon bloodline. In the instant that his Mad Demon bloodline was activated, the entire sky turned into a sea of blood. Zhou Xian was expressionless. Kill. As her voice rang out, the 12 black-clothed people behind her rushed out. Their target was not Yi Xian, but the undying Imperial clan experts below. As for Yi Xian, he had Xiao Mu's doppelganger stand in front of them. These mortal extinguishing experts were not people that the undying Imperial clan could contend against. If he didn't stop these people, these mortal extinguishing realm experts would deal a destructive blow to the undying Emperor clan. Although those clones only had less than 60% of Xiao Mu's strength, they were still very terrifying. The 10 doppelgangers were actually able to suppress the black-robed men. As for Yi Xian himself, he rushed in front of Zhou Xian and slashed down with his sword. This sword was much stronger than before because it had the support of the Mad Demon bloodline. Zhou Xian's expression was calm. She clenched her right hand lightly. Boom. An invisible barrier blocked Yi Xian's sword. The space around them exploded instantly. However, the space where Zhou Xian was completely unscathed. At this time, Yi Xian slashed down again. Zhou Xian suddenly punched out. Boom. The sword light shattered and Yi Xian was instantly sent flying. Zhou Xian also retreated dozens of zhang. She had just stopped when a flying sword pierced through the air towards her. Zhou Xian stepped forward and punched out again. A fist imprint slammed into the flying sword. Boom. The flying sword was forced to a stop by the fist imprint. At this time, Yi Xian suddenly appeared in front of Zhou Xian like a ghost. Zhou Xian's speed was even faster and she directly kneed him. Boom. This knee caused the space in front of her to collapse, and Yi Xian was instantly sent flying. But the next moment another sword slashed down. Zhou Xian suddenly stretched out her right hand and then stretched out 2 fingers and pinched. Boom. Between the 2 fingers, a ray of sword light appeared. Her 2 fingers had actually caught Yi Xian's sword. Zhou Xian took advantage of the situation to grab Yi Xian's sword and then slashed forward. A ray of sword energy suddenly descended from the sky, heading straight for Yi Xian in the distance. This was also a sword and it seemed to split the universe. In the distance, Yi Xian did not dare to forcibly take this attack because he was not a sword body. He opened his right hand and a sword appeared in his palm. He also slashed down. A ray of blood-red sword energy shot up to the sky. Boom. The 2 rays of sword energy exploded apart upon contact, and then countless strands of sword energy shot towards the surroundings while an area of over 100 kilometers of space was instantly shattered into pieces. Zhou Xian was just about to attack again when she suddenly frowned. Because the black-armored experts of the Void Tribe were collapsing one by one. Yi Xian hadn't asked Little Mu to kill Zhou Xian, and he'd asked her to kill the black-armored experts instead. Because in that way the losses of the undying Imperial clan could be minimized. Zhou Xian's face immediately fell when she saw Little Mu slaughter the experts of the Void Tribe. Besides her, no one here could stop Little Mu. Even she had to be extremely careful. Zhou Xian immediately turned around and looked towards the distance. If all of you don't stop her, then I'll retreat immediately. After a short moment of silence, Numerous black shadows suddenly appeared in the distance, and then they vanished on the spot. Assassins. These assassins weren't members of the Void Tribe. They were assassins that the laws of the universe had nurtured in secret, and only they could resist Little Mu. When the mysterious assassins vanished, Little Mu had suddenly vanished as well. Moreover, the assassins had vanished as well. But it didn't take long for another expert of the Void Tribe to perish. It was Little Mu. However, Little Mu immediately fled after killing one of them, and she didn't give the assassins any chance to stop her. Zhou Xian's face fell when she witnessed this scene. All of you go kill the members of the Undying Imperial clan. Those assassins immediately turned around to deal with the experts of the Undying Imperial clan. Xian's face fell when he witnessed this scene. He had no other choice but to ask Little Mu to stop those assassins. Even though Little Mu had stopped those assassins, she'd been pinned down as well. The situation was even more disadvantageous to the Undying Imperial clan. In midair, Zhou Xian gazed at Xian and was about to speak when Xian suddenly stomped his right foot against the ground, and then his figure transformed into a ray of blood-red light that shot forward explosively. He had to kill Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian laughed coldly, took a step forward and then punched forward. Bang! This punch forcefully blocked Xian's attack. Xian was just about to attack again when Zhou Xian suddenly charged forward and smashed her fist towards Xian's throat. It was swift like a bolt of lightning. Xian instinctively moved to the side and avoided this punch. But in the next moment, Zhou Xian's right fist suddenly swept horizontally. Bang! This sweep transformed space into nothingness. On the other hand, Xian was already 300 m away. Space-time shoes. Zhou Xian gazed at Xian. I underestimated you. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly charged forward. The space in front of Xian exploded apart, and then a fist smashed towards him. A wisp of a savage smile arose on the corners of Xian's mouth. He took a step forward and his sword domain enveloped Zhou Xian. At the same time he suddenly drew his sword and slashed. At the instant he drew his sword, an expanse of blood-red light instantly drowned him and Zhou Xian. Bang! An explosion resounded like a thunderclap, and then countless rays of blood-red light and sword light shot towards the surroundings while Xian was blasted flying. After Xian stopped moving, a wisp of blood slowly seeped out from the corner of his mouth. On the other hand, there was a mark on Zhou Xian's right cheek. Zhou Xian rubbed her cheek lightly, and she grinned as she gazed at the drop of blood on the tip of her finger. She gazed at Xian. Young Master Yi, I've really greatly underestimated you. Needless to say, you were actually able to fight me equally at such a realm of cultivation. Needless to say, that's really extraordinary. Xian wiped off the blood on the corner of his mouth. You talk too much nonsense. We're fighting a life-and-death battle, not a romantic battle. As soon as he finished speaking, he charged forward. A ray of blood-red light flashed through the battlefield. In the distance, Zhou Xian suddenly punched out. Bang! Xian was blasted back to where he stood earlier, and the space in front of him had been shattered and obliterated. At this moment, Zhou Xian suddenly punched out. A fist instantly arrived in front of Xian. Xian activated the space-time boots, and at this moment Zhou Xian suddenly punched to the right. Rumble! Space shattered and Xian retreated several hundred zhang away. Just as he stopped and was about to attack, he seemed to have discovered something. Turning his head, he saw that in the distance, countless members of the Undying Emperor clan were falling one after another. After Xiao Mu was held up, the Undying Emperor clan was at a complete disadvantage. The difference in cultivation was too great. If not for the fact that many Undying Emperor clan members possessed powerful Undying bloodlines, there would have been even more deaths. Seeing that the Undying Emperor clan was at a disadvantage, Xian's expression sank. He looked towards Xiao Mu's position. At this moment even he couldn't sense Xiao Mu. All he knew was that there were at least 20 super assassins holding Xiao Mu back. Xiao Mu couldn't escape at all. Suddenly the space in the surroundings split apart, and then hundreds of black-robed experts charged out. Xian's face instantly turned pale when he saw the thousands of black-robed experts. Even the weakest was at the transcending mortal realm. How could the Void Tribe have so many transcending mortal realm experts? Dongli Jing's face instantly turned pale when she saw so many transcending mortal realm experts. A short moment later, a trace of resolve flashed in her eyes and she looked at Xian. the Undying Emperor clan can't protect you anymore. You must live well in the future." As she spoke, she turned to look at the Undying Emperor clan members and roared furiously, "All the elders of my Undying Emperor clan, detonate yourself immediately. Even if we die, we won't allow anyone to devour our bloodlines. As long as we live, our blood will exist. If we die, our blood will die." As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and charged towards the Void Tribe members in front of her. Her body was burning and strands of powerful aura surged out incessantly from her. Self-detonation. Yi Xian's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he saw this. Clan leader. He wanted to stop her, but he was stopped by Zhou Xian. In the distance, Dongli Jing's voice suddenly rang out again. "Yi Xian, let the Undying Emperor clan continue to exist. I'm counting on you." As soon as she finished speaking, boom. In the distance, an explosion suddenly resounded like a clap of thunder, and the entire starry sky trembled. At this moment, all the Undying Emperor clan members were dumbfounded. The clan leader was gone. Below, Dongli Zhan looked at the exploding space in the horizon with a dazed expression. After a moment of silence, he suddenly said, "All Undying cavalry fight." Behind Dongli Zhan, a group of cavalry suddenly charged out. The leader of the cavalry roared angrily, "Everyone detonate yourself." Boom, 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 boom. Explosions continuously resounded in the sky. The Void Tribe members retreated rapidly. Below, Dongli Zhan looked at the sky with an expressionless face. "Everyone fight." At this moment, apart from the Undying Emperor clan's younger generation, all the Undying Emperor clan members charged out. "All Shadow Guards, detonate yourself. All Undying Dao soldiers, detonate yourself. All Feather Divine Guards, detonate yourself. All Imperial Divine Guards, detonate yourself." Dongli Zhan, "I'll leave first. Clan leader Jing, we're here. There are no cowards in the Undying Emperor clan. There are still many things that I haven't done." Within the Undying Emperor clan's soul hall, soul wood exploded one by one. Soon tens of thousands of soul tablets disappeared. The hall was empty. The people were there and the blood was there. The people were there and the blood was there. P.S. People are wandering outside. Chapter 1627. One by one the Undying Imperial clan powerhouses died. With so many Void Tribe powerhouses self-destructing, the Void Tribe powerhouses were forced to retreat. The power produced by the self-destruction was simply too powerful. It was the final attack of countless Undying Imperial clan powerhouses. All the Void Tribe powerhouses retreated and chose to avoid it for now. Yi Xian felt like his heart was being cut by a knife when he sensed the Undying Imperial clan powerhouses self-destructing. He attacked madly with his sword and rays of blood-red sword light slashed at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian did not choose to fight head-on. He chose to retreat as he fought. Therefore Yi Xian had no chance at all. The self-destruction lasted for almost 15 minutes. The entire Undying Star region shook as countless powerhouses looked at the Undying world with fear in their eyes. What exactly happened? When everything calmed down, only a group of young people remained in the Undying world. Less than 100. All of them were the prodigies of the Undying Imperial clan. At this moment, Dongli Zhan looked at Yi Xian. "Take care of them." With that, he walked slowly towards the Void Tribe powerhouses in the distance. Yi Xian roared furiously, "No." As he spoke, he was about to stop Dongli Zhan. Right at this moment, Dongli Zhan suddenly spoke in a soft voice. "Yi Xian, from now on, you are the clan chief of our Undying Imperial clan. Take good care of these little fellows." With that, he looked into the distance and smiled. "Brothers, I'm coming." Boom. Dongli Zhan self-destructed. With him as the center, the space in an area of thousands of meters was instantly reduced to nothingness. At the sight of this, Yi Xian, who was in the distance, felt his mind go blank. Meanwhile, the remaining Undying Imperial clan powerhouses were petrified on the spot. At this moment, all of their eyes were filled with confusion. Before this, they were the prodigies of the Undying Imperial clan. They were the focus of the Undying Imperial clan. If anything happened, the clan would take care of it. Now they were the only ones left in the Undying Imperial clan. What should we do? At this moment, besides confusion, there was also despair in the eyes of these prodigies. All the elders and their close relatives were dead. They were the only ones left. In the distance, Zhou Xian looked at the empty, undying world in silence. All the Void Tribe powerhouses were extremely shocked at this moment. They never expected that the undying Imperial clan would be this decisive. They all chose to self-detonate. No one chose to escape. Meanwhile, Zhou Xian spoke softly, "It's a race worthy of respect." As she spoke, she looked to the geniuses and demon-level geniuses of the undying Imperial clan. Capture them alive. The people in front of him were all core members of the undying Imperial clan. They possessed the purest undying bloodline. Although it was a little less, it was better than nothing. Upon hearing Zhou Xian's words, the surrounding Void Tribe powerhouses immediately charged towards the undying Imperial clan freaks. Below, Dong Liqing, who was the leader, suddenly said fiercely, "Everyone get ready." At this time Yi Xian suddenly appeared in front of Dong Liqing. Dong Liqing looked at Yi Xian with bloodshot eyes. "The patriarchs are all dead." Yi Xian nodded. "I know." With that, he turned to look at the Void Tribe powerhouses who were charging at him. "Listen up, you can only self-destruct after I die. If I'm not dead, don't you dare self-destruct." With that, he walked off into the distance. Boom. A strand of flames suddenly blazed within Yi Xian's body. He wasn't burning his soul, he was burning his lifespan. He still had a trump card, the life sword. Burning his lifespan to obtain great power. As he burned his lifespan, Yi Xian's aura grew stronger and stronger. At the same time, the mad demon bloodline within him started to seethe. He was growing more and more insane. However, he still refused to allow himself to go completely insane. Because if he did, then the youths of the undying Imperial clan behind him would die as well. Zhou Xian frowned when she saw Yi Xian burning his lifespan, and she slowly clenched her right hand. Suddenly Yi Xian vanished on the spot. A ray of blood-red light flashed. The group of Void Tribe powerhouses that were charging at the very front were instantly killed. Meanwhile, Zhou Xian suddenly vanished on the spot. In the distance, Yi Xian suddenly slashed down with his sword. Boom. A ray of sword light forced Zhou Xian to stop. Zhou Xian gazed at Yi Xian. "All of you go capture those people. I'll stop him." As soon as she finished speaking, the Void Tribe experts behind her charged towards the geniuses of the undying Imperial clan who stood behind Yi Xian. Yi Xian was about to attack when Zhou Xian charged forward and smashed her fist towards Yi Xian. At this moment, a giant creature suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. Xianxia slapped his palm down. Bang! Zhou Xian was blasted 3 kilometers back. Meanwhile, Yi Xian had arrived in front of Dong Liqing and the others. He suddenly roared furiously as the sword spirit in his hand flew out. In an instant, a blood-red flying sword tore through the sky and tore through everything. His bloody heads fell incessantly from the sky. The Void Tribe experts immediately stopped when they witnessed this scene. At this moment, Yi Xian was like a god of death. Yi Xian's aura was growing stronger and stronger. He was still burning his lifespan. After his breakthrough, his lifespan was over 10,000 years. At this moment, he was burning nearly 1,000 years of his lifespan. Madly burning, Yi Xian glared at the Void Tribe experts. His eyes were filled with a sea of blood. At this moment, his killing intent had reached a critical point. Kill. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. He could not go completely berserk. He still had people to protect. Even if he died, he had to send these geniuses of the undying Imperial clan to a safe place. These people were the last hope of the undying Imperial clan. No matter what, the undying Imperial clan would survive. Otherwise, even if he died, he would not forgive himself. In the distance, Zhou Xian looked at Xianxia with a solemn expression. This demonic beast was exceptionally powerful. Xianxia looked at Zhou Xian. "Xiao Ta, send those kids into the pagoda." At this moment, Xiao Ta appeared before the geniuses of the undying Imperial clan. However, Dong Liqing shook his head. "We're not leaving." Yi Xian suddenly turned and roared, "Go!" Dong Liqing looked at Yi Xian with bloodshot eyes. "The clan leader and the elders are all dead. They've all died in battle. How can we escape? Is it because of the so-called inheritance? They're all dead. Even if we pass on the undying Imperial clan, what's the point? Moreover, we can't revive the undying Imperial clan. Only you can. Therefore you must live. Only with you alive can the undying Imperial clan have hope." There's no point in us living. Yi Xian suddenly turned and walked up to Dong Liqing. He grabbed Dong Liqing's collar and said fiercely, I'm the clan leader now. Dong Liqing, I'm ordering all of you to enter the pagoda. If I die, you'll be the clan leader of the undying imperial clan. At that time you can choose to self-destruct. But let me tell you, your self-destruction is meaningless. You won't even be able to drag a single person down with you because you're too weak. Even if you want to self-destruct, can't you become stronger before self-destructing? Too weak. The expressions of Dong Liqing and the others became extremely unsightly. As Yi Xian said, it was meaningless for them to blow themselves up. Because even if they self-destructed, they wouldn't pose a threat to the Void Tribe's experts. At this moment Xianxia suddenly said, Little fellows from the undying imperial clan, stop wasting time. Enter the pagoda immediately. Yi Xian roared angrily, Everyone enter the pagoda immediately. Anyone who disobeys will be expelled from the undying imperial clan and never allowed to return to the clan. Hearing this, the expressions of the undying imperial clan's youths changed. Expelled from the undying imperial clan? This was worse than killing them. Dong Liqing looked at Yi Xian, tears flowing uncontrollably from his eyes. Clan leader, you must live. With that he led the undying imperial clan's experts into Xiaota. Xianxia looked at Yi Xian. You take Xiaota and leave. I'll stop them. Yi Xian shook his head. Senior, you won't be able to stop them alone. With that he looked at Xiaota. Take them to my father. Tell my father that if I die, I'll leave the undying imperial clan to him. Xiaota's voice trembled. Young master. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. Leave. With that he grabbed Xiaota and tossed him into the sky. Xiaota transformed into a ray of golden light and disappeared into the horizon. Yi Xian turned to look at the Void Tribe's experts. His blood was boiling. Now he could go all out and do it. Xianxia glanced at Yi Xian. What? Are you prepared to die here? Yi Xian said softly. Senior, am I very useless compared to my father? Xianxia looked at the Void Tribe's experts. Why do you say that? Yi Xian said, He's so strong and I'm so weak. I thought about it carefully. If it weren't for him and Qing, I would have died somewhere. But this time they didn't appear. I realized that I can't protect anything. Xianxia was silent for a moment, then said, Do you know what's the biggest difference between you and your father? Yi Xian shook his head. Xianxia said, Your father is a ruthless person, a very ruthless person. He is ruthless to others but even more ruthless to himself. He basically kills wherever he goes. He was too extreme in his early days and almost didn't trust anyone. It can be said that most of the obstacles he faced were created by himself. With that he paused, then said, But you're different. The biggest difference between you and him is that you've endured karma that shouldn't be endured at your age. Many of your karma was given to you by your father and Tianming. It's not just them, there are also many unknown karma. For example, the Void Tribe. Why did they target you and the Undying Emperor clan? Is it because of you? No. It's because of that mysterious person in your body. Apart from the Void Tribe, there's also the universe laws. These grudges have nothing to do with you. With that he looked at Yi Xian. Your father's misfortune was caused by himself. As for you, part of it was caused by him. The sins he committed back then, he was untainted by all the karma. But that doesn't mean his son is untainted by all the karma. Yi Xian fell silent for a moment, then said, Senior, if I die here today, please help me tell my father that if he has a son in the future he should spend more time with his son. Perhaps it's not wrong to leave him alone, but a childhood with parents is really blissful. With that he looked at Xianxia and grinned. When I was young in Qingqing, what I hated the most was being called a bastard and a bastard. Also, after I die, tell him and Qing not to reverse reincarnation for me. This world is too bitter. I don't want to live it again. With that he walked towards the Void Tribe experts in the distance. P.S. I was scolded by a reader just now. They don't treat me like a human. Chapter 1628. He doesn't want to live. At this moment Yi Xian was filled with despair and his lifespan was burning up madly. Xianxia gazed silently at Yi Xian. He knew that Yi Xian didn't intend to live at all. Xianxia sighed softly when he thought up to this point. The annihilation of the undying imperial clan had been a huge blow to this little fellow. In the distance, Zhou Xian watched as Yi Xian walked over and she slowly clenched her right hand. With the current strength of the Void Tribe, Killing Yixian was really too easy. Even if some helpers came, it wouldn't be a problem at all. Su Wuxin said, "Kill." As soon as she finished speaking, over a dozen black figures suddenly flashed towards Yixian. Moreover, Su Wuxin herself had vanished on the spot. He had to act. Otherwise, ordinary people wouldn't be able to do anything to Yixian. In the distance, Yixian's expression gradually became ferocious. He sheathed his sword and suddenly drew it. Boom. A sword howl shot into the sky. Bang. An expanse of blood-red light suddenly erupted in front of Yixian, and Su Wuxin, who was charging at the front, was pushed back by this attack. At the instant that she was pushed back, Yixian had vanished on the spot. A strand of blood-red light flashed, and then over a dozen heads flew into the air at practically the same time. Instant kill. At this moment, the transcending mortality stage experts couldn't withstand a single attack from Yixian. After he killed all the transcending mortality stage experts in the surroundings, Yixian walked towards Su Wuxin with his sword in hand. At this moment he'd gone completely mad. He didn't retain even a trace of consciousness. Just as Xianxia had said after he'd asked Xiao Ta to lead the geniuses of the undying imperial clan away, he'd never intended to live. Only by delaying these people would Xiao Ta be able to escape. Su Wuxin suddenly said, "Lin, lead some people to pursue Xiao Ta." As soon as she finished speaking, a middle-aged man suddenly led dozens of people towards the distant horizon. Just as Yixian was about to attack, Su Wuxin suddenly appeared in front of Yixian. She elbowed him, but Yixian had already vanished. Boom. Su Wuxin's attack missed and the space around him shattered. His attack missed and Su Wuxin suddenly turned his head. The distant horizon was covered by a bloody light, and within that bloody light over a dozen corpses slowly fell to the ground. Instant kill. Su Wuxin frowned when she witnessed this scene. She gazed at Yixian, and only now did she notice that Yixian's strength hadn't just increased by a little bit. The current Yixian was very strong. Of course, this was in exchange for his lifespan. Su Wuxin suddenly said, "Elder Xian, stall him." Yes. An old man suddenly stepped out from behind Su Wuxin and charged straight at Yixian. A transcendent realm expert. His target had been the people behind Yixian, but no one had stepped out from behind Yixian. Yixian slashed down from the sky. Bang. A ray of blood-red sword energy descended from the sky and forced the old man to a stop. However, the old man shattered the ray of sword energy in the next moment, and then he charged at Yixian again. Su Wuxin gazed at Xianxia after she saw the old man stall Yixian, and Xianxia leaped forward. Bang. The entire undying world trembled. Su Wuxin's eyes narrowed slightly. "Grand Elder." As soon as she finished speaking, another black-robed old man flew out from behind her, and his arms were weak. "Heaven and earth protection." Bang. An invisible barrier suddenly appeared above them and it blocked Xianxia. However, the barrier cracked as soon as it blocked Xianxia. Su Wuxin gazed at Xianxia. "All of you stall him." As soon as she finished speaking, she vanished on the spot. Xiao Ta was dashing madly somewhere in the starry sky. Find his master. He knew that the only one who could protect these undying Emperor clan members was his master. Moreover, he still needed to find his master to save Yixian. At this moment, a woman suddenly appeared not far from Xiao Ta and Xiao Ta stopped. The woman was wearing a snow-white dress that was spotless. In her right hand was an ancient scroll. The woman looked at Xiao Ta and smiled. "Xiao Ta, where are you going?" Xiao Ta was silent for a moment and then said, "Just strolling around." The woman blinked. "How about you stroll around my place?" Xiao Ta turned and ran. The woman's lips curled. "Freeze." As soon as she finished speaking, the entire starry sky froze, and even the starlight froze at this moment. In the distance, Xiao Ta was frozen on the spot and could not move. Xiao Ta wailed, "It's over." The woman appeared in front of Xiao Ta and she smiled, "Come with me." As she spoke, she grabbed Xiao Ta. Xiao Ta suddenly said, "My master is very powerful." The woman smiled. "He's quite powerful. But you're not." Xiao Ta. Moments later, the woman took Xiao Ta and vanished into the starry sky. Not long after, Su Wuxin appeared. Su Wuxin glanced at the scene and frowned. "He's gone." At this moment, a white figure suddenly appeared at the end of the starry sky. Su Wuxin looked at the white figure and his eyes were extremely solemn. The white figure smiled. Kill Yi Xian and I'll revive your father and restore your Void tribe's freedom. Apart from that, this universe will belong to your Void tribe in the future, and the entire universe will be devoured by your Void tribe. Su Wuxing looked at the white figure. Do I have a choice? The white figure walked into the distance. Miss, I didn't remove Master's seal for you to play. If he doesn't die, your Void tribe will die. As soon as he finished speaking, the white figure had vanished into the starry sky. Su Wuxing fell silent. At this moment, a sense of sorrow arose in her heart. The seemingly powerful Void tribe was only a pawn of someone else. However, if they wanted to live, they could only be someone else's pawn. After a while, Su Wuxing turned around and left. Undying world. At this moment, Yi Xian was getting stronger as he fought, and the peri-celestial powerhouse was finding it difficult to resist him. Although Yi Xian was only at the breaking mortal realm, with the power of his bloodline and the burning of his lifespan, his current combat strength could suppress a peri-celestial powerhouse. Of course, this was obtained by burning his lifespan, and it was only a flash in the pan. After all, once his lifespan was burned, he would be gone. On the other hand, Xianxia was even more ferocious. He was holding back countless Void tribe powerhouses by himself. In fact, the most important person was Little Mu. She had forcefully held back nearly 20 super assassins. During the battle, she had already killed 6 super assassins, and the number of assassins on the battlefield was decreasing. In fact, she was much more powerful than these assassins, but there was nothing she could do about it. These assassins would not fight her head-on, and they would only attack when she wanted to help Yi Xian. These assassins' goal was very simple. They wanted to hold back Little Mu, not kill her. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly struck the mysterious Yin Elder with his sword. Just as he was about to attack again, a shadow flashed behind him, and he instinctively turned around and slashed down with his sword. Boom! The space in front of Yi Xian exploded, and a middle-aged man appeared in front of him. The middle-aged man's fist collided with Yi Xian's sword. The middle-aged man stared at Yi Xian and then he suddenly spun. Boom! A wave of blood-red sword light exploded, and Yi Xian retreated over 1 kilometer with his sword. Meanwhile, the mysterious Yin Elder suddenly appeared in front of him and slammed his fist towards Yi Xian's head. At the same time, the middle-aged man who had just appeared behind Yi Xian as well. A pincer attack. Yi Xian's space-time shoes suddenly activated, and he vanished on the spot. When he appeared again, he was behind the middle-aged man, and he stabbed his sword towards the back of the middle-aged man's neck. The middle-aged man reacted extremely quickly and he turned around and punched again. Boom! The middle-aged man was blasted flying by Yi Xian's sword strike. At this moment, Yi Xian's strength had far surpassed the peri-celestial stage. The middle-aged man stared at Yi Xian. His entire right arm had split open and his fist had been sliced open. Yi Xian's attack had almost crippled his entire arm. At this moment, the mysterious Yin Elder suddenly said, "He won't be able to hold on for much longer." The middle-aged man nodded. At this moment, Yi Xian was madly burning his lifespan. Even though he'd obtained boundless energy, he wouldn't be able to maintain it for long. It wouldn't be long before he perished on the spot. As for the two of them, they just had to buy some time. However, they'd overlooked something, and that was Little Mu. Suddenly, a ray of cold light appeared at the middle-aged man's throat. His expression changed drastically and he wanted to dodge, but it was too late. The middle-aged man's head flew into the air. The mysterious Yin Elder's expression changed drastically when he saw this, and he hurriedly retreated. Little Mu gazed at Yi Xian. At this moment, Yi Xian seemed like he was covered in blood, and his aura was extremely formidable. Little Mu said, "Let's go." However, Yi Xian paid no attention to her. Instead, he turned around and charged towards the experts from the Void tribe. Little Mu didn't say anything when she saw this, and she just charged after Yi Xian. The expressions of the experts from the Void tribe changed drastically when they saw Yi Xian charge towards them. Ordinary experts couldn't resist Yi Xian at all. Right at this moment, a woman suddenly appeared here. It was Su Wuxing, and her eyes narrowed slightly when she saw Yi Xian and Xiao Mu charge over. The Void Divine Guard. As soon as she finished speaking, 6 old men suddenly charged out from the world of nothingness behind her. Su Wuxing said, "Stop that assassin." The 6 of them suddenly appeared in the surroundings, and then they chanted an ancient incantation. The space in the surroundings suddenly trembled violently, and then numerous blood-red threads gradually covered the entire space here. At this moment, the blood-red threads in a certain area strangely disappeared. The 6 of them roared furiously at the same time. Spatial shift. As soon as they finished speaking, the 6 of them vanished. Little Mu had vanished along with them as well. They couldn't do anything to Little Mu at all, so they could only choose to take Little Mu away. After Little Mu was sent away, only Yi Xian and Xianxia remained here, and Xianxia had been stopped by the experts from the Void Tribe. Zhou Xian gazed at Yi Xian. "You're done for." As soon as she finished speaking, she charged over. Besides Zhou Xian, there were 2 Peri-Celestial Realm experts and 12 Mortal Extinguisher Realm experts. Because Little Mu's previous clones had been killed, Yi Xian didn't retreat when he saw Zhou Xian and the others charging over, and he held the sword spirit in his hand as he charged towards them. P.S. Sorry it's late. Chapter 1629. At this moment Yi Xian had truly forgotten about life and death. No, he was seeking death. When he saw countless experts of the undying Imperial clan self-destruct, he felt extremely guilty. If not for Yi Xian, the undying Imperial clan might not have ended up like this. Karma. Because of Yi Xian's karma, he had implicated the undying Imperial clan. At this moment, half of his hair had turned white. Because he was still burning his lifespan. At this moment he had less than 100 years left. The moment Yi Xian charged out, Xianxia's expression changed and he roared angrily, "Brat, don't tell me you're really seeking death." He realized that something was wrong. At first he had thought that Yi Xian only wanted to kill a few people and then retreat. But now it seemed that was not the case. This brat was simply seeking death. He could not let this brat die here. Otherwise the entire universe would disappear. Ignoring the brat's father, if Tianming knew that the brat had died here, Xianxia did not dare to think about it. That woman would really bury the entire universe with Yi Xian. And if that woman went crazy, no one would be able to stop her. As if remembering something, Xianxia suddenly said, "Sword spirit. Take him away." Sword spirit. The sword in Yi Xian's hand trembled slightly. However, she did not take Yi Xian away. Instead she actively cooperated with Yi Xian. Seeing this, Xianxia roared angrily, "What are you doing?" In the distance Yi Xian slashed down with his sword. Zhou Xian, who was in the lead, was pushed back several thousand zhang. The instant Zhou Xian retreated, Yi Xian slashed out with his sword again. A bloody head flew into the air. Mortal Extinguisher Realm expert. Yi Xian brandished his sword as fast as lightning. Every time he brandished his sword, a bloody head would be cut off. At this moment he was killing Mortal Extinguisher Realm experts like dogs. In just a few breaths, more than a dozen experts had died. Most of them were at the Mortal Extinguisher state. Yi Xian was also covered in wounds. Zhou Xian suddenly spoke furiously when he witnessed this scene, "Just keep him busy." She knew that Yi Xian was currently overdrafting his life. As long as this dragged on for a while, Yi Xian himself would die. Around them, the Void Tribe powerhouses were no longer attacking. Instead they surrounded them without attacking. Yi Xian suddenly raised his sword and leaped, slashing at Zhou Xian. In the distance, Zhou Xian clenched his right hand. "Defend!" Boom! A shapeless barrier appeared above her. However, the barrier was instantly shattered by Yi Xian's sword strike. Rumble! Zhou Xian was pushed back. While she was being pushed back, Yi Xian dashed forward again. Then he swung his sword down again. A ray of blood-red sword light slashed down and tore through everything. Zhou Xian's pupils constricted when she saw this attack. She opened her right hand and a black shield suddenly appeared in her grasp. In the next moment, the black shield suddenly appeared above her head. Boom! When Yi Xian's sword strike struck the black shield, the entire shield trembled, and then a shapeless force swept towards the surroundings. The space in an area of over 100 kilometers cracked apart. The force of Yi Xian's attack was dispersed into the surroundings, and this expansive space bore the brunt of it. Meanwhile, Yi Xian slashed down once more. Boom! The black shield trembled violently and the surrounding space collapsed. Zhou Xian was blasted 30 kilometers away along with the shield. After she stopped, Zhou Xian slowly clenched her right hand. She stared fixedly at Yi Xian. His right hand behind him had cracked apart. It wasn't just his right hand. Her internal organs had cracked as well. Yi Xian was much stronger than before. After all, she'd been suppressing Yi Xian in the beginning. Yet now she'd been suppressed instead. Meanwhile, the Void Tribe experts in the surroundings were about to attack when Zhou Xian suddenly said, "Stand down." The Void Tribe experts in the surroundings retreated in unison. Asking these Void Tribe experts to deal with Yi Xian now would only be sacrificing themselves for nothing. Zhou Xian walked slowly towards Yi Xian. She relaxed her right hand and the black shield appeared once more in her palm. At this moment Yi Xian dashed forward and thrust his sword out. A ray of sword light shot towards Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian's right foot was in a half-squat position as she raised the shield in her right hand and blocked it. Bang! This time the black shield forcefully blocked Yi Xian's sword. At practically the exact same moment, Zhou Xian flipped over and swept her leg towards Yi Xian's head. Yi Xian didn't dodge and he stabbed his sword at Zhou Xian instead. Bang! Yi Xian's figure was swept over 10 kilometers away while Zhou Xian moved 3 kilometers back as well. There was a mark on her chest. Over 3 kilometers away, Yi Xian's entire left hand was gone. When Zhou Xian's right leg swept towards him, he'd used his left hand to block it, and the price he paid was his hand. In the distance, Zhou Xian glanced at her stomach and there was a hole there. There was a strand of sword qi raging within her body, but she'd suppressed it. Zhou Xian gazed coldly at Yi Xian. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly vanished. His figure was nowhere to be seen, and only a ray of sword light could be seen. The space-time shoes. Zhou Xian's pupils constricted when she saw Yi Xian's sword slash towards her, and she immediately placed the black shield in front of her. Bang! A ray of blood-red light exploded apart, and then the black shield instantly shattered while Zhou Xian was blasted flying. Even Zhou Xian couldn't endure the strength of Yi Xian's attack. Meanwhile, Yi Xian charged forward again. Obviously, he intended to kill Zhou Xian first. Zhou Xian's eyes flashed ferociously. "Let's see how long you can last." As soon as she finished speaking, she vanished on the spot like a bolt of lightning. His space was torn apart. Zhou Xian chose to fight Yi Xian head-on, because she realized that defending would only put her in a more passive position. Zhou Xian slammed her fist forward and light flickered on her fist. The space where Zhou Xian's fist descended was transformed into a huge dent, and the ray of light within the dent was distorted. Rumble. As an explosion rang out, the space around the two of them turned into nothingness at this moment. At this moment, the entire undying world started to shatter. Actually, the entire undying world was already in pieces. When the Undying Emperor clan's experts had self-destructed, they had heavily damaged the world. Therefore, the world could no longer endure Zhou Xian and Yi Xian's power. The entire undying world was crumbling and being destroyed. Just then Yi Xian disappeared on the spot. In the distance, Zhou Xian frowned slightly, and then she suddenly slammed her fist forward. Rumble. A powerful force swept out from her fist like a mountain torrent, and this force forcefully shattered the ray of light. But at this moment Yi Xian appeared in front of her and his sword stabbed towards her throat. Zhou Xian slammed her hands together and this time she blocked Yi Xian's sword. Rumble. Zhou Xian's hands trembled violently and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Zhou Xian's expression turned fierce, and she stomped her right foot, releasing Yi Xian's sword. She tilted her head and her right fist slammed towards Yi Xian's abdomen. At this moment Yi Xian's sword changed from a stab to a slash. Boom. Yi Xian's entire body arched as he was sent flying, and Zhou Xian's right arm was also sent flying. In the distance Yi Xian had just stopped and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body had been torn apart. If it weren't for the violet aura and the undying bloodline, this punch would have been enough to kill him. Even with the violet aura and the undying bloodline he still felt terrible. This was because he no longer had a powerful physical body. In the distance Zhou Xian was extremely weak. She'd exhausted a great deal of her strength and she'd been heavily injured by Yi Xian's sword. Most importantly, she didn't have the terrifying regenerative abilities that Yi Xian possessed. Zhou Xian wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, and then she looked up at Yi Xian. Meanwhile, the surrounding experts of the Void Tribe were about to attack, but Zhou Xian stopped them. Although Yi Xian looked extremely weak right now, he still had the strength to attack. But now, there were not many people present who could withstand Yi Xian's sword. Even a peri-celestial realm expert couldn't stop it. After overdrafting his vitality and coupled with the terrifying power of his bloodline, Yi Xian's strength had far surpassed the peri-celestial realm and was close to the transcendent god realm. Zhou Xian walked slowly towards Yi Xian. In the distance, Yi Xian stood with his sword in hand, and his aura was growing stronger and stronger to an abnormal degree. Zhou Xian suddenly punched from afar. Bang! A fist tore through boundless space of darkness and smashed towards Yi Xian. Yi Xian suddenly slashed his sword down. Bang! The fist was instantly blasted apart. Meanwhile, Zhou Xian suddenly appeared in front of him and smashed her fist towards his face. Yi Xian didn't defend against this punch, and he stabbed his sword at Zhou Xian's chest instead. Moreover, Zhou Xian didn't choose to defend against it as well. Bang! Yi Xian was blasted flying once more. At the same time, his body started to crack apart inch by inch. When he finally stopped, his body had vanished and only his soul remained. Moreover, his soul was growing more and more illusory. On the other hand, Zhou Xian was pushed almost 3 kilometers back. She knelt down on one knee while blood flowed incessantly from her mouth. Her injuries weren't any lesser than Yi Xian's. If not for the power of the bloodline in her body suppressing Yi Xian's sword energy, she would have died when Yi Xian's sword pierced her abdomen. Both of them possessed top-rate bloodlines. Zhou Xian raised her head and gazed at Yi Xian. Meanwhile, Yi Xian's soul suddenly floated towards her. Zhou Xian's pupils constricted when she witnessed this scene. This fellow can still attack. Zhou Xian stared fixedly at Yi Xian. Kill him. At this moment she was unable to attack any longer. Because Yi Xian had 3 strands of sword energy within her body, so she would definitely die if she attacked. The experts of the void race in the surroundings charged towards Yi Xian when they heard her. In the distance, Yi Xian wielded his sword and walked toward the void tribe powerhouses. At this moment, because his physical body had been destroyed, his insane demon bloodline was slowly disappearing, so his consciousness was gradually recovering. Yi Xian gazed at the experts of the void race who were charging towards him from afar, and he spoke softly, "Farewell." As he spoke, he was about to ignite his soul. Meanwhile, the sword spirit in his grasp suddenly started trembling. A moment later, it transformed into a woman in a red dress who appeared in front of Yi Xian. She gazed at Yi Xian. "Master has always cared about you. His concern for you is no less than Tianming's. It's the first time you've been another's son, and it's the first time he's become a father as well. He definitely didn't do well, so don't blame him." As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and started walking towards the experts of the void race. Zhou Xian stared fixedly at her. "You're just a sword." She gazed coldly at him. "I'm a sword, but I'm Yang Ye's sword." As soon as she finished speaking, she tapped the tip of her foot against the ground and swung her sword. In an instant, a few hundred heads flew into the air. Chapter 1630. All the experts of the Void Tribe were stunned when they witnessed this scene, including Zhou Xian, who led the group. There weren't just mortal-shattering realm experts amongst them, there were even mortal extinguisher realm experts. All of them had been instantly killed with just a single strike. Instantly killed. Zhou Xian stared fixedly at the woman in a red dress, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. At this moment, Yi Xian was slightly stunned as well. The sword spirit is that strong? He'd always thought that the sword spirit was just a sword, a comparatively stronger sword. However, he hadn't expected that she would actually be so strong. She's probably on the verge of attaining the overgod realm. As if he'd thought of something, Yi Xian shook his head and laughed bitterly. "I'm truly too stupid. How could my father's sword be weak?" All the experts of the Void Tribe stared fixedly at the sword spirit in the distance, and their eyes were filled with fear. The sword spirit's strength had terrified them. Meanwhile, Zhou Xian suddenly said, "Retreat. Retreat." The experts of the Void Tribe retreated explosively when they heard Zhou Xian. After all, the sword spirit wasn't the only one here. Little Mu was here as well. Once that little girl withdrew, she would be the nightmare of the Void Tribe. It didn't take long for the experts of the Void Tribe to retreat into the world of nothingness. The sword spirit didn't pursue them. She turned around and walked over to Yi Xian. She gazed at Yi Xian and said, "You have to rely on yourself." As she spoke, she gazed at Xianxia. "Let's go." Xianxia hesitated for a moment before nodding. The sword spirit and Xianxia left. Yi Xian suddenly said, "You were able to save the members of the Undying Imperial clan just now, right?" The sword spirit stopped moving. "That's what you should protect, not me." Remember, it's impossible for someone to help you forever. Especially now. Besides the 3 swords, anyone who helps you might die. You must remember that. As soon as she finished speaking, she vanished into the starry sky with Xianxia. Yi Xian fell silent. Xianxia said, "Are you really not going to help him?" The sword spirit gazed into the distance. "I can help him now, but can I help him forever?" Xianxia hesitated for a moment and said, "He can't deal with them right now." The sword spirit turned to look at Xianxia. "It's time for him to grow up." Xianxia shook his head. "The price is too high." The sword spirit softly said, "The price of growth is cruel. If he doesn't grow up, more people will die in the future." Xianxia sighed softly and did not say anything else. Undead world. At this moment, the undying world was already pitch black. The undying realm no longer existed. Yi Xian stood where he was, all alone, looking abnormally frail. Dead. Yi Xian stood rooted to the ground, his eyes glazed over. Higashi Yasushi was dead. Countless experts of the undying imperial clan had died. Jing Dongli, Zhan Dongli, Zhu Dongli. After a long time, Yi Xian looked at his own hands. He had originally thought that by rushing back he would be able to save the undying emperor clan. However, he was wrong. He was gravely mistaken. He couldn't save anyone. Not only could no one save him, but he also needed someone else to save him. Without Qing Heir and his father, he couldn't protect anyone. After a long time, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. I'm sorry. Self-blame. Guilt. Heartache. At this moment he realized that most of the time, death was much more comfortable than living. After a long time, Yi Xian opened his eyes. He respectfully bowed to the crowd, then turned around and left. Revive the undying imperial clan. Green City Yi Family Ancestral Hall. Ancestors. Yi Xian has no talent, no virtue. From now on, Yi Xian's position as crown prince will be replaced by Yi Lang. The one who spoke was an old man dressed in black robes. Not far behind the old man stood a youth. The youth had a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides were the Yi family elders. Why? At this moment, a timid voice suddenly rang out in the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. This little girl was called Yi Ling. She was Yi Xian's younger sister. When she heard that the family wanted to depose Yi Xian, she ignored her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. Yi Ling, what are you doing? The little girl called Yi Ling bowed to the people in the ancestral hall. She said timidly, Great Elder, my brother Yi Xian is a crown prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason? The Great Elder looked coldly at Yi Ling. This is a family matter. What are you interrupting for? Leave. Yi Ling was clearly a little fearful. She did not dare to look the Great Elder in the eye, but she did not leave. Instead, she mustered up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed to the elders on both sides of the hall and said, Elders, my brother is currently fighting with the Li family for the mining rights of the mine in Nanshan. He is now fighting for the family and it is unknown whether he is alive or dead. However, the family has used a groundless excuse to remove his position as the crown prince. Impudent. The Great Elder suddenly raged. Whether he's crippled or not, it's not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away. At this time the new crown prince Yi Lang suddenly laughed. He should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others. The Great Elder replied coldly, then flog him 30 times. Very quickly 2 Yi family guards rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists. She said angrily, This is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the family for so many years. Even now he's fighting for the family. The family is unfair to him. One of the guards glanced at the new crown prince Yi Lang. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered. Young Master Yi Lang inherits the title of crown prince. It's everyone's wish. What are you yelling about? As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. A crisp slap sounded. Yi Ling's right cheek instantly turned red and swollen. However, she did not cry. She only held her cheek tightly. Yi Lang looked at the guard and smiled. What's your name? The guard hurriedly bowed. This subordinate, Zhang Mu, greets the crown prince. Yi Lang nodded. You're not bad. After I become the crown prince, I need 10 guards. You can be my guard from now on. Hearing this, Zhang Mu was overjoyed. He hurriedly bowed deeply. This subordinate will go through fire and water for the crown prince. I'm willing to die 1,000 deaths. Yi Lang nodded. Drag him away. This person is causing trouble in the ancestral hall. Do not hold back. Understood? Zhang Mu glanced at Yi Lang. When he saw the killing intent in Yi Lang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yi Ling's hair and dragged her out. At this time, Zhang Mu seemed to have seen something and stopped. Within the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. He was wearing a tight-fitting robe that was tattered and covered in blood. This person was Zhou Xian, who had rushed back from Nanshan. Seeing Zhou Xian, Yi Lang's lips curled into a cold smile. Inside the ancestral hall, all the elders frowned. The great elder narrowed his eyes. His face was dark and gloomy. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Yi Xian saw Zhang Mu dragging Yi Ling, his face turned savage. Who gave you the guts to touch my sister? When Zhang Mu saw Yi Xian, his face changed. He quickly looked at Yi Lang and was about to speak. At this time, Yi Xian leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Yi Xian's fist landed on his face. Zhang Mu felt dizzy and he stumbled and fell. Yi Lang did not stop there. He charged towards Zhang Mu again. At this time, Yi Lang suddenly roared, Yi Xian, he's my man. How dare you? Yi Xian suddenly stepped on Zhang Mu's chest. Pooh! Zhang Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yi Lang's face turned ugly. Yi Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, your man? As he spoke, he stomped on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's face turned into a bloody mess as he screamed, Prince, save me. Yi Xian did not care about Zhang Mu as he walked to Yi Ling's side. Seeing Yi Ling's state, Yi Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced apart. He clenched his fists and his entire body trembled. When Yi Ling saw Yi Xian, her tears flowed. Brother, it hurts, it hurts. Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant, he charged in front of Zhang Mu and kicked Zhang Mu's head. Qingqing Yi Clan Ancestral Hall. Ancestors, Yi Xian has no talent, no virtue. From now on, Yi Xian's position as prince shall be replaced by Yi Lang. The one who spoke was an old man in black robes. Not far behind the old man, there was a youth with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides there were the elders of the Yi clan. Why? Right at this moment, a slightly timid voice suddenly resounded within the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. This girl was called Yi Ling and she was Yi Xian's younger sister. When she heard that Yi Xian was to be replaced, she disregarded her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. Yi Ling, what are you doing? The little girl called Yi Ling bowed to everyone in the hall as she asked timidly, Great Elder, my brother Yi Xian is the prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason? The Great Elder looked at Yi Ling coldly. This is a matter of the clan, what are you interrupting for? Leave. Yi Ling was clearly a little fearful. She did not dare to look the Great Elder in the eye, but she did not leave. Instead, she mustered up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed to the elders on both sides of the hall and said, Elders, my brother is currently fighting with the Li family for the mining rights of the mine in Nanshan. He is now fighting for the family and it is unknown whether he is alive or dead. However, the family has used a groundless excuse to remove his position as the crown prince. This is truly unfair. Impudent. The Great Elder suddenly raged. Whether he's stripped or not, it's not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away. At this time, the new prince Yi Lang suddenly laughed. He should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others. The Great Elder replied coldly, then flog him 30 times. Very quickly, 2 Yi clan guards rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists and said angrily, This is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the clan for so many years and even now he's fighting for the clan. The clan is unfair to him. One of the guards glanced at the new prince Yi Lang. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered, Young Master Yi Lang inherits the position of prince. What are you yelling about? As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. A crisp slap sounded, and the right side of Yi Ling's face instantly swelled up. But she did not cry and only held her cheek tightly. Yi Lang looked at the guard and smiled. What's your name? The guard hurriedly bowed. Subordinate Zhang Mu greets the crown prince. Yi Lang nodded. You're not bad. After I become the prince, I need 10 guards. You can be my guard from now on. Hearing this, Zhang Mu was overjoyed and quickly bowed deeply. I'll go through fire and water for the prince, and I'll do anything for you. Yi Lang nodded. Drag him away. This person is disturbing the ancestral hall. Don't hold back, understand? Zhang Mu glanced at Yi Lang, and when he saw the murderous intent in Yi Lang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yi Ling's hair and dragged her out. At this moment, Zhang Mu suddenly stopped as if he had seen something. In the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. The young man was wearing a tight-fitting robe that was tattered, and there was blood everywhere. The young man was Zhou Xian, who had rushed back from Nanshan. Seeing Zhou Xian, Yi Lang's mouth curled into a cold smile. In the ancestral hall, the elders frowned. The great elder narrowed his eyes and his face was dark. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Zhou Xian saw Zhang Mu dragging Yi Ling, his face turned savage. Who gave you the guts to touch my sister? When Zhang Mu saw Zhou Xian, his face changed. He quickly looked at Yi Lang and was about to speak. At this time, Zhou Xian leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Zhou Xian's fist landed on his face. Zhang Mu felt a wave of dizziness and he stumbled and fell. However, Yi Ling did not stop there. He rushed towards Zhang Mu again. At this time, Yi Lang suddenly roared, Yi Xian, he's my man, how dare you? Yi Xian suddenly stepped on Zhang Mu's chest. Pooh! Zhang Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yi Lang's face turned ugly, while Yi Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, your man? As he spoke, he stepped on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's face turned into a bloody mess as he screamed, Prince, save me. Yi Xian did not care about Zhang Mu as he walked to Yi Ling's side. Seeing Yi Ling's state, Yi Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced by a knife. He clenched his fists and his entire body trembled. When Yi Ling saw Yi Xian, her tears flowed. Brother, it hurts, it hurts. Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant, he charged in front of Zhang Mu and kicked Zhang Mu's head. Chapter 1631. In the starry sky, the woman's voice rumbled like thunder and didn't disperse for a long time. Daoist. The woman in white was the former leader of all the laws. And the woman in black was the second strongest law of destiny, Ah Ming. Daoist chuckled. Ah Ming, I don't understand. You're a law of destiny, so why don't you have any thoughts of controlling your own destiny? Master is dead and you've escaped his control. Isn't that a good thing? Ah Ming clenched her right hand and said ferociously, Bitch, did Master ever mistreat you? Daoist shook her head. No. He was very good to me. He was the person who treated me the best in the world. Ah Ming roared. Then why did you join forces with the other dimensional people to kill him? Has your conscience been eaten by dogs? Daoist smiled. Let's not talk about this, all right? Ah Ming's expression was ferocious. Daoist, Master liked you the most and valued you the most. He was prepared to let you take over his position, but he never imagined that the person he trusted the most, the person he loved the most, would betray him. As she spoke, she pointed at Daoist. Bitch, if it wasn't for you, how could Master have perished? As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly blasted her fist forward. Bang! In an instant, the starry sky was covered in strange runes. Grand Dao laws. This punch contained boundless Grand Dao laws, and it could easily destroy a universe in the outside world. In the distance, Dao Yi's expression was calm as she slowly stretched out her right hand and pressed it down. The starry sky seemed to freeze, and in the next moment, the strange runes gradually turned illusory before vanishing. Right at this moment, a strange scene appeared in the surrounding space, and the strange runes that had vanished suddenly reappeared in the starry sky. Time was reversed. Time had been reversed to 3 breaths of time ago. All the runes suddenly converged to form a huge runic fist, and it instantly blasted towards Daoist. Daoist's expression was still calm as she pointed forward with her finger. Bang! As soon as her finger descended, the runic fist instantly vanished. But in the next moment time flowed backward once more, and the runic fist appeared once more. Not only that, but before Daoist could even make a move, the runic fist had already landed on her body. Boom. Daoist's body trembled in fear and became a little more illusory. It wasn't his main body. This was not her real body. Daoist turned her head and saw a woman standing a few hundred feet to her right. The woman was wearing a simple cotton dress. Her right hand was hidden in her sleeve, and her left hand was placed in front of her chest. At this moment she was also looking at Daoist. Time law. Among the 9 great laws it was ranked 3rd. Daoist glanced at the laws of time and smiled. "Third brother, I didn't expect you to be able to use the laws of time to such an extent. No wonder Master often praised you." The life law shook its head. "Daoist, please don't mention Master. You're not worthy." Daoist smiled and said, "Don't mention it." Then she looked at the law of destiny. "Ah Ming, you should be able to feel that the boundary that Master set up is slowly disappearing. Once it disappears, you guys won't be able to defend this place." Ah Ming sneered. "Do you want us to surrender?" Daoist smiled. "You definitely won't." Ah Ming was expressionless. "Then why are you here talking nonsense?" Daoist looked at Ah Ming and smiled. "Ah Ming, you've already sacrificed your eyes for this universe. What? Do you want to continue sacrificing your life?" Qingqing Yi family's ancestral shrine. Ancestors, Yi Xian has no talent and no virtue. From now on, Yi Xian's position as the crown prince will be replaced by Yi Lang. The one who spoke was an old man in a black robe. Not far behind the old man stood a youth with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides were the Yi family's elders. "Why?" At this time, a timid voice rang out in the ancestral shrine. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. Her name was Yi Ling and she was Yi Xian's younger sister. When she heard that Yi Xian was to be replaced, she ignored her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. "Yi Ling, what are you doing?" The girl called Yi Ling bowed to everyone in the ancestral shrine, asking timidly, "Great Elder, my brother Yi Xian is the crown prince. Why did you cripple him?" The great elder looked at Yi Ling coldly. "This is a family matter. What are you interrupting for? Leave." Yi Ling was obviously afraid, not daring to look at the great elder. However, she did not leave. Instead, she mustered up her courage and walked into the ancestral shrine. Once again she bowed to the elders. "Dear elders, my brother is fighting with the Li family for the mining rights. He's fighting for the family and we don't know if he's dead or alive. Yet the family is using a groundless excuse to strip him of his position. This is unfair." "Impudent." The great elder suddenly raged. "Whether he's stripped or not, it's not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away." At this time the new crown prince Yi Lang suddenly laughed. "He should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others." The great elder replied coldly, "Then flog him 30 times. Very quickly 2 Yi family's guards rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists and said angrily, "This is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the family for so many years. Even now he's fighting for the family. The family is unfair to him." One of the guards glanced at the new crown prince Yi Lang. He knew that his chance to shine had come. The guard sneered, "Young master Yi Lang inherits the crown prince's position. It's everyone's wish. What are you shouting for?" As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. A crisp slap sounded, and the right side of Yi Ling's face instantly turned red and swollen. However, she didn't cry. She just held her cheek tightly. Yi Lang looked at the guard and smiled. "What's your name?" The guard hurriedly bowed. "This subordinate Zhang Mu greets the crown prince." Yi Lang nodded. "You're not bad. After I become the crown prince, I'll need 10 personal guards. From now on you'll be my personal guard." Hearing this, Zhang Mu was overjoyed and hurriedly bowed deeply. "This subordinate is willing to go through fire and water for the crown prince. I'm willing to risk my life for you." Yi Lang nodded. "Drag him away. This person is causing trouble in the ancestral hall. Don't hold back. Understood?" Zhang Mu glanced at Yi Lang, and when he saw the killing intent in Yi Lang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yiling's hair and dragged her out. At this time Zhang Mu seemed to have seen something and he suddenly stopped. Inside the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside the hall. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. He was wearing a tight-fitting robe that was tattered and covered in blood. This person was Zhou Xian, who had rushed back from the Nanshan. Seeing Zhou Xian, Yilang's lips curled into a cold smile. Inside the ancestral hall, all the elders frowned. The great elder's eyes narrowed and his face darkened. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Zhou Xian saw Zhang Mu dragging Yiling, his face turned savage. "Who gave you the guts to touch my sister?" When Zhang Mu saw Zhou Xian, his face changed. He hurriedly looked at Yiling and was about to speak. At this time Zhou Xian was like a ferocious tiger, leaping in front of him. Before the latter could react, Zhou Xian's fist landed on his face. Bang! Zhang Mu felt a wave of dizziness and he stumbled and fell. However, Yiling did not stop there. He rushed towards Zhang Mu again. At this time Yiling suddenly roared, "Zhou Xian, he's my man. How dare you?" Zhou Xian suddenly stepped on Zhang Mu's chest. Boo! Zhang Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yiling's face turned ugly. Zhou Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, "Your man?" As he spoke, he stepped on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's entire face was a bloody mess as he screamed, "Prince, save me!" Zhou Xian did not care about Zhang Mu as he walked to Yiling's side. Seeing Yiling's state, Zhou Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced by a knife. He clenched his fists and his entire body trembled. When Yiling saw Zhou Xian, her tears flowed. "Brother, it hurts, it hurts." Hearing this, Zhou Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant he charged in front of Zhang Mu and kicked Zhang Mu's head. Ping! Qingqing Yi Clan Ancestral Hall. Ancestors, Zhou Xian has no talent, no virtue. From now on Zhou Xian's position as prince shall be replaced by Yiling. The one who spoke was an old man in black robes. Not far behind the old man, there was a youth with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yiling. On both sides there were the Yi clan elders. "Why?" Right at this moment, a slightly timid voice suddenly resounded within the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. This girl was called Yiling and she was Zhou Xian's younger sister. When she heard that Zhou Xian was to be replaced, she disregarded her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. "Yiling, what are you doing?" The girl called Yiling bowed to everyone in the hall as she asked timidly, "Great elder, my brother Zhou Xian is the prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason?" The great elder looked at Yiling coldly. "This is a matter of the clan, what are you interrupting for? Leave." Yiling was clearly a little fearful. She did not dare to look the great elder in the eye, but she did not leave. Instead, she mustered up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed to the elders on both sides of the hall and said, "Elders, my brother is currently fighting with the Li family for the mining rights of the mine in Nanshan. He is now fighting for the family and it is unknown whether he is alive or dead. However, the family has used a groundless excuse to remove his position as the crown prince." Impudent! The great elder suddenly raged. "Whether he's crippled or not, it's not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away." At this time the new prince Yiling suddenly laughed. "He should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others." The great elder replied coldly, "Then flog him 30 times. Very quickly 2 Yi clan guards rushed in. Yiling clenched her fists and said angrily, "This is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the clan for so many years and even now he's fighting for the clan. The clan is unfair to him." One of the guards glanced at the new prince Yiling. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered, "Young master, Yiling inherits the title of prince. What are you shouting about?" As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yiling's face. Slap. A crisp slap sounded and the right side of Yiling's face instantly swelled up. However, she did not cry and only covered her cheek tightly. Yiling looked at the guard and smiled. "What's your name?" The guard hurriedly bowed. "Subordinate Zhang Mu greets the prince." Yiling nodded. "You're not bad. After I become the prince I'll need 10 guards. From now on you'll be my guard." Hearing this, Zhang Mu was overjoyed and hurriedly bowed deeply. I'll go through fire and water for the prince and I'll do anything for you. Yilang nodded. Drag him away. This person is causing trouble in the ancestral hall. Don't hold back, understand? Zhang Mu glanced at Yilang, and when he saw the murderous intent in Yilang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yiling's hair and dragged her out. At this moment, Zhang Mu seemed to have seen something and suddenly stopped. In the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. The young man was wearing a tight-fitting robe and the robe was tattered and there was blood everywhere. The young man was Zhou Xian, who had rushed back from Nanshan. Seeing Zhou Xian, Yilang's mouth curled into a cold smile. In the ancestral hall, the elders frowned. The great elder narrowed his eyes and his face was dark. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Zhou Xian saw Zhang Mu dragging Yiling, his face turned savage. Who gave you the guts to touch my sister? When Zhang Mu saw Zhou Xian, his face changed. He hurriedly looked at Yilang and was about to speak. At this time, Zhou Xian was like a ferocious tiger, and before the latter could react, Zhou Xian's fist landed on his face. Zhang Mu felt a wave of dizziness and he stumbled and fell. Yilang did not stop there and he charged towards Zhang Mu again. At this time, Yilang suddenly roared, Zhou Xian, he's my man, how dare you? Zhou Xian suddenly stepped on Zhang Mu's chest. Zhang Mu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yilang's face turned ugly, while Zhou Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, your man? As he spoke, he stomped down on Zhang Mu's face. Zhang Mu's face turned into a bloody mess as he screamed, Prince, save me. Zhou Xian did not care about Zhang Mu as he walked to Yiling's side. Seeing Yiling's state, Zhou Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced by a knife. He clenched his fists and his entire body trembled. When Yiling saw Zhou Xian, her tears flowed. Brother, it hurts, it hurts. Hearing this, Zhou Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant he charged in front of Zhang Mu and kicked Zhang Mu's head.